Chapter 3576. He melted into the void and disappeared without a trace. Chu Li shook his head. His Majesty is really impatient. Be careful. He might do something desperate. Lu Yurong frowned and said, I didn't expect him to hate you so much. He can't wait to get rid of you. If he doesn't succeed this time, he won't give up. What other tricks does he have? Chu Li asked. Lu Yurong pondered and said, they will probably join forces with Meng Xiaoqi. The celestial beings hate you to the core. Meng Xiaoqi will find a few celestial beings, and they will definitely be able to work together. If the two groups join forces, can you handle them? We really have to be careful, Chu Li said seriously. Lu Yurong sighed. I didn't expect the late emperor to be killed so easily. Even now, she still found it hard to believe. Lung Wufeng was a cold and emotionless monarch. He was cunning and very difficult to scheme against, yet he was besieged by celestials and had no choice but to ascend to heaven. Chu Li said, our current emperor is an impatient person. Lu Yurong was stunned and looked at him. She was smart enough to understand the hidden meaning behind Chu Li's words. Chu Li sighed. I hope I'm wrong. It can't be right. Lu Yurong frowned at him. No matter how rebellious he is, he wouldn't do something like this. Who exactly is Meng Xiaoqi? Any news? Chu Li asked. Lu Yurong nodded lightly. The leader of the demonic blade sect, and the Lung family was originally from the demonic blade sect. Chu Li was surprised. Lu Yurong said, the ancestor of the Lung family was originally a disciple of the demonic blade clan. The student surpassed the master and eventually conquered this land. It could be said that he was a genius. The demonic blade clan had disappeared for thousands of years, but they did not go extinct. They trusted the leader of the demonic blade clan deeply. Chu Li laughed. He guessed wrongly. I don't think Meng Xiaoqi would do something like that. After all, Lung Wufeng is a disciple of the Fiend Blade sect. That might not be the case. Chu Li shook his head. He felt that there was something fishy about Lung Wufeng's death. It was really difficult for outsiders to surround and kill him. After all, heavenly deities were extremely sensitive to danger. Even if celestials wanted to surround and kill him, they would not be able to block his senses, unless it was a trap set by someone close to him. If Lung Shouren was in danger, Lung Wufeng would intervene even if he sensed that something was amiss. Lu Yurong frowned. Do you want me to check? Forget it. Chu Li sighed. Since we've already ascended to the Grand Master's boundary, if Lung Shouren really did it, Lung Wufeng will come after him when we reach the Grand Master's boundary. He won't be able to escape. Lu Yurong said, that will be many years in the future. A heavenly deity had been in this world for 60 years. Who could remember the things that happened after several decades? No matter how deep the hatred was, it had already pretty much dissipated. Moreover, this was between father and son. Chu Li said, this is a bad start. The Grandmasters won't just stand by and watch, will they? The realm beyond Avalon might not necessarily care so much. Lu Yurong shook her head and said, let's just pretend we don't know anything about this. If we really dig it out, he will definitely take revenge crazily. Besides, this is just a guess. That's the only way. Chu Li nodded. Will they go against the imperial residence of King and next? Based on my understanding of him, he will definitely continue to attack. Lu Yurong nodded firmly. Chu Li sighed. How troublesome. If it really doesn't work, I'll have to get rid of him. If he dies, the Ji dynasty will be in turmoil. Lu Yurong frowned. Sun ascended the throne in a hurry. Chu Li thought about it and slowly shook his head. Based on Su's current cultivation level, he would not be too strong after becoming an enlightened master. Once he became an enlightened master, he would become the target of everyone. Without a strong cultivation level, he would be bullied everywhere. It would be better not to become an enlightened master. Lu Yurong said, then we still have to keep him. Chu Li could only nod. Follow me to Goddess Attraction Mountain. I'm not going into isolated cultivation. Lu Yurong said. Chu Li frowned. The world is in chaos now. Asuras are rampant, and there are even celestials who do whatever they want. I have the ability to protect myself. Lu Yurong said. Chu Li scoffed. It's not like you don't know how powerful Asuras are. The Asuras from the Grandmasters are even stronger. They can even kill enlightened masters. If I leave, what about the High Duke's public house? Lu Yurong shook her head. Chuli was tied down by the High Duke's public house, and so was she. Chuli did not force her. All right then. Once you see an Azura, call me immediately. Don't try to deal with him by yourself. All right. Lu Yurong nodded helplessly. Chuli waved his hand as a farewell and disappeared. The next moment, he appeared at Goddess Attraction Mountain. After observing with the omniscient mirror, he found Master Zhou Dunli sitting in the basilica, motionless like an old monk. Dong Jianxin sat motionless in front of him. Dong Jianxin was solemn. Chuli entered the basilica and closed fist saluted. Chuli, you're here. Zhou Dunli opened his eyes. Dong Jianxin opened his eyes as well. Chuli came and sat beside them. He smiled. Master, why do you have time to come back? Isn't the Grandmasters in chaos? It seems like you know something, Zhou Dunli said. Chuli looked at his serious expression and smiled. Did something big happen? Zhou Dunli said. Chuli, I'm going to heaven. Chuli was stunned. He shook his head. Master, you can't be saying that you're going to pass on the position of Hill Master, right? Yes. Zhou Dunli nodded. Chuli's smile faded. Did something happen? I need to focus on dealing with the Grandmasters. Zhou Dunli said. The situation is not looking good. Master can go now. There's nothing big here. Chuli said. It's okay to run both ways, right? It's not the same. Zhou Dunli said. As it is now, I can only use half of my strength in the Grandmasters. Only when I step into the Grandmasters will I be able to use my full strength. Then pass it on to senior brother. Chuli said. I'm only one step away from becoming an enlightened master. I don't want to be apatheicized. You? Zhou Dunli sighed. Jianxin is not suitable for apatheicized now. Chuli said, Master, can you improve senior brother's cultivation level through the enlightenment technique? It's difficult. Zhou Dunli shook his head. Chuli smiled. I've seen many methods of enlightenment. For example, the Ji dynasty's crown prince has now become an emperor. Fa Yuan from the Tempest Temple can greatly improve their cultivation level through enlightenment. They can become Emperor Wu and apatheicized. Enlightenment is not a foolproof method, Zhou Dunli sighed. The risks involved are hard to predict. Not to mention, not everyone can withstand the power of empowerment. You need to be strong enough to receive the empowerment. Humans are like tools. Everyone has a limit. Once the limit is exceeded, the empowerment is equivalent to killing. Chuli said, Senior brother can't withstand enlightenment. Even if he receives enlightenment, it will be difficult for him to reach your level. Zhou Dunli shook his head. Now that we're in chaos, without a strong enough cultivation level, becoming an enlightened master can easily lead to death. Chuli smiled bitterly. Master won't say that I have to become an enlightened master, right? Zhou Dunli nodded slowly. Dong Jian said, Junior brother, the bigger picture is more important. With your current cultivation level, you can already kill enlightened masters. Once you become an enlightened master, how strong will you be? You'll be invincible. Chapter 35-77. Chuli was curious. Zhou Dunli said, The realm beyond heavens will soon issue a realm beyond heavens order in this world, offering a bounty for the heart of Azura. Chuli raised his eyebrows. The Grand Master can destroy the heart of Azura. No, Zhou Dunli shook his head. The heart of Azura cannot be destroyed. The only way is to suppress it. Chuli sighed. He did not expect that even the Grandmasters could not do anything to the heart of Azura. Zhou Dunli said, If you suppress it for 100 years, the heart of Azura will weaken by 1 level. Although it won't kill it, it will greatly damage the Azura's strength. If you suppress it for 200 or even 300 years, the Azura that is reborn will not be able to pose a threat for 100 years. It will take a few hundred years for it to recover its original strength. Chuli nodded. Any heart of Azura will do. An Azura that can only descend from the realm beyond heaven. Zhou Dunli said, The original Azuras of this realm were not strong enough to pose a threat, so we ignored them. But most of the hearts of Azura in this world have been taken away by the Grandmasters, Chuli said. He told Zhou Dunley about the Tempest Temple's demon subduing pagoda. Zhou Dunley shook his head and sighed. Looks like the Azura realm has also made a move. However, these Heart of Azura won't be able to take shape in such a short period of time. They won't affect the battle much. Chu Li asked, "What benefits does the Grandmaster's badge have? If you act according to the Beyond Heaven decree, the rewards will be unimaginably generous. You will definitely receive great benefits." Zhou Dunley sighed. "If you can become an enlightened master, you will be able to act according to the Beyond Heaven decree. If I'm not an enlightened master, as a Grandmaster, I can't follow orders." "Not bad," Zhou Dunley said slowly. "Grandmasters are not qualified to receive the Grandmaster's order. Enlightened masters are bound by the heavenly rules and are also rewarded by the heavenly rules. Grandmasters are not bound by the heavenly rules and are not rewarded. This is how the world works." Chu Li shook his head. Zhou Dunley said, "You can already kill Azuras now. Once you become an enlightened master and kill a few more Azuras, the rewards will definitely be beyond your imagination. Once you enter the realm beyond heaven, your starting point will be far higher than others. This is also the fortune of our goddess attraction mountain." "Master, I still want to become a god myself." Chu Li shook his head and said, "I've persevered for so long, and I'm about to succeed. I'm not willing to give up just a little bit more." "You?" Zhou Dunley looked at him helplessly. He knew Chu Li's temperament and knew that it would be difficult to convince him, but he still wanted to try. Dong Jianxin said unhappily, "Junior apprentice brother, if you refuse, could it be that you want me to become a heavenly deity? Senior brother, there's nothing bad about becoming an enlightened master. If I become an enlightened master as well, our goddess attraction mountain will only have 2 enlightened masters." Chu Li chuckled. "I know how capable I am." Dong Jianxin snorted. "Becoming an enlightened master will only be a burden to goddess attraction mountain." Chu Li turned to look at Zhou Dunley. "Master, if senior brother becomes an enlightened master, what about the golden dragon? The golden dragon will follow me to the realm beyond heaven." Zhou Dunley shook his head and said, "If something happens to Immortal Attraction Mountain, it will return, and I will return as well. This is what makes Immortal Attraction Mountain special." Chu Li smiled. "That's right. With Master and the Golden Dragon around, who do we have to be afraid of? Senior brother, feel free to be a god. I don't want to be a burden." Dong Jianxin snorted. "Besides, you're just thinking about the good. With my abilities, even if I receive empowerment, it will be difficult for me to become the Imperial Emperor. There's still you, junior brother. How can I be an enlightened master?" Zhou Dunley nodded lightly. Chu Li laughed. "So I become a hindrance." Chu Li, Zhou Dunley sighed. "The situation in the realm beyond heaven is urgent. If goddess attraction mountain fails," Chu Li hurriedly said, "has it reached that stage?" Zhou Dunley nodded slowly. Chu Li frowned. "Will the realm beyond heaven lose?" "It's not impossible," Zhou Dunley said. Chu Li asked, "If the realm beyond heaven loses, what will happen?" "The realm beyond heaven will be occupied by the Azura boundary. From now on, our world will belong to the Azura boundary." Zhou Dunley's expression was solemn. "The Azura will become the masters. There will be no more enlightened masters. Our people will become the slaves of the Azura." Chu Li asked. Zhou Dunley nodded slowly. "It will become a paradise for the Azura. Doesn't that mean there's no hope?" Dong Jianxin asked. "Will we humans never have a chance to make a name for ourselves?" Zhou Dunley slowly said, "There might be other worlds like this. The Azura need enough murderous intent to increase their cultivation level. That's why humans won't go extinct. Instead, they'll become more prosperous. After 100 years, even humans won't resist anymore because the Azura are usually in human form. No one will know that they're in the crowd. People might even think that they're enlightened masters." Chu Li asked, "Why can't the realm beyond heaven defeat the Azura boundary?" "The Azura are too difficult to deal with. Although there are many grandmasters, there will always be casualties. On the other hand, the Azura are immortal." Zhou Dunley shook his head. "That's why we sent people down to provide reinforcements. Unfortunately, Distant water can't quench the present thirst. But don't worry, there won't be any results within 100 years. Chu Li let out a sigh of relief. 100 years was enough for him to become an enlightened master. If he couldn't advance within 100 years, he wouldn't have any hope of becoming an enlightened master. He sighed. It's hard to go against the general trend. Master, don't force yourself. How's Song Wuji? Song Wuji is now a hero, and his reputation is growing. Because his cultivation level is stronger and his murderous nature is stronger. The Azura didn't gain an advantage against him. Instead, they lost many of them. Zhou Dunley said, "That's why you shouldn't provoke Song Jifan now. If Song Wuji directly descends and kills you, the realm beyond heaven won't say anything." Chu Li frowned. How does the realm beyond heaven maintain the heavenly rules? There's the Elders Guild. Zhou Dunley said, there's a total of 999 elders. If these elders decide that someone is guilty, it'll be a violation of the heavenly rules. There are so many things in the world. Can these elders take care of them all? Chu Li asked. Actually, there aren't as many as you think. Zhou Dunley said, how many enlightened masters are there in total? Besides, most enlightened masters follow the rules and won't violate the heavenly rules. Chu Li slowly nodded. Since he knew that the heavenly rules were strict, he naturally wouldn't act recklessly. Moreover, there were only 8 enlightened masters in this world. It was indeed very worry-free. Chu Li, it's not about whether you want to be the Hill Master or not. It's about whether you have to be the Hill Master. Zhou Dunley sighed and shook his head. Think about it. If you don't become the Hill Master, Goddess Attraction Mountain will lose its enlightened master. There are many grandmasters in the Fu dynasty, and there's no lack of rising talents. There are also many who have seen the heart. Even if Jian Fan uses the enlightenment technique, he won't be able to reach the peak. Chu Li smiled bitterly. He was forced into a corner and had no other choice. Dong Jian thought, Junior brother, I'm useless as your senior brother. I've implicated you. His face was extremely gloomy. At this moment, he hated himself. Chapter 3578. Why not? Sun Mingwe was surprised. This is a technique to extend one's lifespan. It's better than dying, right? Because the ageless longevity technique consumes one's lifespan to extend one's lifespan. It will consume one's entire flesh and soul. It's really cruel. Chu Li shook his head. I can't take it. I heard that the ageless longevity technique is extremely powerful. Once it's mastered, it can consume everything in the world. Sun Mingwe said. Everything? Chu Li frowned. Including spirit herbs? That's natural. Sun Mingwe nodded. But if your boundary is not high enough, you can only consume living things, including humans, spirit beasts, and even wild beasts. You can consume wild beasts now, right? Yes, I can. Chu Li nodded. But it's useless. Even if I consume 100 wild beasts, I won't become stronger or increase my lifespan. Sun Mingwe was confused. Chu Li said, at my boundary, I need to consume grandmasters or spirit beasts. If I can consume an enlightened master, I'll become stronger. There's such a restriction. Sun Mingwe nodded in realization. I thought it was strange too. If it's that easy, then the ageless longevity technique is really scary. Chu Li sighed. It's already scary now. Think about it. If Li Ming cultivates the ageless longevity technique, as her master, you can help her capture a few grandmasters or celestials. Let Li Ming consume them. Li Ming will become strong in an instant. Come listen. Song Jifan smiled. But let me tell you in advance. No matter what, I won't agree to it. I just want to listen. Chu Li said, I want to learn the ageless longevity technique. Ha ha. Song Jifan laughed. I knew you're going to die soon. Look at you. You look like you're going to die soon. It's because of the heaven-murdering technique, right? Ha! He laughed maniacally. He bent over and slapped his knees. He was overjoyed. When he passed the heaven-murdering technique to Chu Li, he knew this day would come. As expected, it was time to show the old men in the church how wise their decision was. Chu Li stared at him coldly and watched him laugh maniacally. Chu Li, you deserve this. Song Jifan laughed until he was out of breath. Where's your prestige from back then? Come on, show me what you've got. Chu Li said calmly. I know the everlasting technique of the Changshan denomination. Haha. Song Jifan laughed again and shook his head. AI, are you crazy? Did you suffer a chi deviation and hurt your head? Chu Li asked. You don't believe me? Do you think I should believe it? Song Jifan restrained his smile, shook his head, and sighed. All right, go back and find a good place to bury yourself. Let's meet again in the realm beyond heaven. Chu Li frowned. Song Jifan continued with a smile. But when we meet again in the human realm beyond heavens, you will be the lowest celestial being, and I will be a celestial being. One is in the sky, and the other is on the ground. The difference is like clouds and mud. I don't think there will be any chance for us to fight. Chu Li scoffed and said, Do you want me to start chanting the incantation of the ageless longevity technique now? Sure, recite it for me, Song Jifan said with a smile. Chu Li said, Remember what you said. He glanced behind Song Jifan. They heard it. Don't regret it. Song Jifan's face instantly darkened, and he said in a deep voice, Come out. His voice fell, but there was no movement. The surroundings were empty except for the breeze, and there was no other reaction. Then don't blame me for being ruthless. Song Jifan sneered and pressed on the long sword at his waist. Suddenly, an invincible aura surged out. 4 middle-aged men appeared in the void. Their bodies were reserved and did not reveal a trace of vitality. They looked like they did not know martial arts. Chu Li frowned and took a step back. He felt danger. These 4 middle-aged men were powerhouses among the celestial beings. They were slightly weaker than the 3 he killed with the Sky Killer sword, but they were already very strong. He was no match for them now. Sun Mingyue cooperated well with him. When she saw his appearance, she knew what to do. She also took a step back and revealed Song Jifan. It was Song Jifan against the 4 middle-aged men. Chapter 35:79. He used the Heavenly King Palm. Chu Li shouted, How dare you? How dare you attack the temple leader? As he finished, he stood in front of Elder Fong and lowered his body. He performed the sacrificial power and used the Heavenly King Palm. Once the Heavenly King Palm was used, it instantly condensed into a solid palm print and went against Guo Zhongjing's Heavenly King Palm. Bam! A muffled sound was heard. The 2 palm energies were evenly matched and both dispersed. Guo Zhongjing was surprised and immediately realized that Chu Li used the sacrificial power. He shook his head and said, What a good subordinate. Again, he used the Heavenly King Palm again. This time, the Heavenly King Palm gathered the surrounding spiritual energy and instantly turned into a white jade palm print. It was crystal clear, as if it was solid. Chu Li also used the Heavenly King Palm. His Heavenly King Palm absorbed the surrounding spiritual energy and turned into a solid palm print. However, it was not as solid as the white jade palm print. It was finally dispersed by the white jade palm print and continued flying towards Chu Li at an even faster speed. The Heavenly King Palm was very strange. The more it was obstructed, the faster it became. It was as if the resistance was turned into a driving force. Bam! Elder Fong countered with her palm and dispersed the white jade palm print. She took a step back and her expression changed. Senior Guo, you're trying to kill me. Her internal organs were flipped over and she felt like vomiting. She was already injured. Guo Zhongjing's palm was obviously trying to kill her. Guo Zhongjing shook his head and laughed. You plotted against me, and I still have to be merciful. Senior Guo, are you going against the Heaven's Punishment Hall? Elder Fong asked calmly. Guo Zhongjing was sensitive and immediately noticed something was wrong. Her words seemed to be luring him to say that he was going against the Heaven's Punishment Hall so that he could find an excuse to attack them. He laughed coldly. Why? Are you going to use a treasure weapon against me? If Senior Guo insists on going against the Heaven's Punishment Hall, then we'll have to use our treasure weapon. Elder Fong said in a low voice. Haha, I didn't expect young Fan to be so vicious. Guo Zhongjing laughed. A woman's heart is the most vicious. Elder Fong suddenly smiled. So, Senior Guo, are you trying to go against the Heaven's Punishment Hall? That's right. Guo Zhongjing took a deep breath and slowly said, I would like to experience your methods, little fan. He knew that everything would be fine as long as he said some soft words, but he just couldn't say it. His rationality told him to say soft words, but his emotions made it impossible for him to say them. He had to be tough to the end. He didn't believe that he couldn't control a junior. Chu scoffed. Hall Master, he must be trying to kill us. Elder Fong took out a jade pendant and flashed it at Guo Zhongjing. Order of the Heavens Punishment Hall. Guo Zhongjing's face darkened. Elder Fong scoffed. Since Elder Guo insists on going against our heavenly punishment hall, we can only use the hall order. Don't blame me for being ruthless. Oomph. Suddenly, a snort sounded. The jade pendant in Elder Fong's hand immediately flew out. Elder Fong's expression changed drastically as she reached out to snatch it back. However, the jade pendant shot to the side at an incredible speed. Chu pushed his palm out. Bang! The Heavenly King palm accurately struck the jade pendant. The speed of the jade pendant slowed down, allowing Elder Fong to catch up to it. Elder Fong reached out to grab it, but was blocked by an invisible force. Elder Fong then flew backward and spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. He glared at the void with hatred. An old man appeared in the void. His face was rosy and his eyebrows were snow white. He was tall and thin and had an aura of an immortal. He gently took off the Heaven's Punishment Hall order and shook his head with a sigh. Why do you have to do this? We're all brothers in the church. Don't hurt the harmony, Chu said hatefully. Elder Guo, you don't hurt the harmony when you show off your power? Do you think we hurt the harmony just because we fight? Aren't you Celestials being too domineering? We're not people that you can bully as you please. Yo, you're not young anymore, but you're still so courageous. How rare. The old man smiled as he sized him up and shook his head. It's just that your cultivation level is a little lacking. I have a set of the ultimate Heavenly King technique here. Take it and learn it. As soon as he finished speaking, he casually tossed a thin booklet out from his sleeve. Chu was stunned and immediately pushed his palm forward. Smack! The thin booklet was pushed back. The old man took the booklet in shock and looked at Chu in surprise. You don't want to learn the ultimate Heavenly King technique? If you have the ultimate Heavenly King technique, the power of your Heavenly King palm will increase by a few times or even 10 times. With your Heavenly King palm's level of attainment, you'll immediately become a first-class master. Chu said in a low voice, If I want an antique study, the church has it. I don't need to learn it from others. You're quite ambitious. The old man was not angry. It was as if he would not be angry no matter what. He shook his head and said, If you miss this opportunity, there won't be a next time. You should know that you're now a disciple of the Heaven's Punishment Hall. Don't even think about learning the ultimate Heavenly King technique. This is the antique study of the Heaven's Heaven Temple. It will never be leaked to outsiders. Chu said, Then forget it. Don't you think it's a pity? The old man asked with a smile. Elder Chung, you don't have to worry. I'll find a way to let him learn the ultimate Heavenly King technique. Elder Fong landed far away and wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. She said hatefully, Elder Chung is really ruthless. The old man in front of her was Chung Hao. He was also a senior of the Longevity Church and a former temple master of the Heaven Temple. The 4 people sent by founding Master Song to guard the Longevity Church were the former temple masters of the 4 temples. They had profound cultivation levels and knew the Longevity Church inside out. Logically speaking, they were the most suitable people. Unfortunately, these people were extremely annoying. They had their eyes set high and might even encounter the Heavenly Star Jade Metal. Chapter 3580. As soon as Chu shouted, he helplessly stopped his attack. He frowned and remained silent. If he were to attack now, he would be interrupting the Heaven's Punishment Hall and breaking the rules. He would be making the entire Heaven's Punishment Hall his enemy. He knew the Heaven's Punishment Hall very well. Once someone obstructed the Heaven's Punishment Hall, that person would be the entire Heaven's Punishment Hall's enemy. They would capture the person and punish him severely. Moreover, there was a powerful treasure in the Heaven's Punishment Hall that would only be used as a last resort. He was not confident that he could defend against it. This was different from killing Bailey Na out of the blue. Killing Bailey Na out of the blue could be said to be an accident, and it was just a personal grudge. Killing Bailey Na now would mean that Bailey Na was carrying out a mission from the Heaven's Punishment Hall. Bailey Na would be making the Heaven's Punishment Hall his enemy. Chuli was already below the restaurant. He shouted towards the sky, "Jin Xianming, show yourself. If you come out now and follow me back, I can give you a lenient sentence. If you are stubborn and I take action myself, you will be punished according to the law." Jin Xianming was sitting in front of the window. He looked down at Chu Li and said, "I won't do anything. You just have to come up and take me away." "Come down yourself," Chu Li shouted. Jin Xianming shook his head. "I'm drunk. I can't walk." Looks like you're not giving up. You're forcing me to attack now," Chu Li said coldly. He unsheathed his sword as he finished. Jin Xianming quickly glanced at Guo Zhangjing, who was drinking in the corner with his head lowered, and shook his head helplessly. Why did this arrogant and domineering celestial being change his temper today? He actually allowed Chu Li to yell at him, but he did not care about it at all. Guo Zhangjing glared at Jin Xianming. Jin Xianming could not help but shiver. He immediately understood that his intention had been seen through by Guo Zhangjing. Now the best thing to do was to go downstairs and leave. Otherwise, if he continued to tangle with Bailey Na, he would definitely anger Guo Zhangjing, who would vent his anger on him. He shouted, "I'll be right down." He took out a silver ingot and placed it on the table. He then flew out of the window and landed in front of Chu Li. Chu Li sized Jin Xianming up. "Are you Jin Xianming?" "That's right." Jin Xianming gritted his teeth. He knew that if he were to fall into the hands of the Heavenly Punishment Hall, it would be difficult for him to escape the fate of having his cultivation crippled. Therefore, he must not fall into their hands. It was a pity that the floating mountain was now sealed and he couldn't escape. The only thing he could hope for was to delay for a few more days. One more free and unfettered day was one more day. He couldn't bear to part with the days of leisurely drinking, and the taste of those beautiful women made him even more infatuated. Once he landed in the hands of the Heavenly Punishment Hall, he would never have the chance to touch women again. When he thought of this, he felt extreme hatred towards the Heavenly Punishment Hall, and boundless killing intent arose within him. Chu Li muttered, "Then let's go." "Bailey Na, how dare you speak ill of Senior Guo?" Jin Xianming suddenly shouted. Chu Li could not help but laugh. "Do you think this will work? Don't waste your time." "Bailey Na, are you saying that Senior Guo doesn't dare to stop you?" Jin Xianming snorted. Chu Li frowned as his killing intent rose. "You're looking for trouble." As soon as he finished speaking, he struck with his palm. Bang! The spiritual energy in the air condensed into a palm print. It was clear as if it was a real palm. It was the Heavenly King palm, and it hit Jin Xianming squarely. Jin Xianming spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. He hissed, "You with the surname Bailey, are you trying to silence me?" No matter how useless Senior Guo is, he's still a senior master of the Longevity Church. How can you be so rude? Chu Li shook his head and looked at Guo Zhangjing, who had appeared beside him. He fist saluted. "Greetings, Senior Guo. You think that I don't dare to touch you?" Guo Zhangjing said coldly. Chu Li smiled. "Senior Guo, don't tell me you didn't see that he's trying to provoke you on purpose so that he can escape? You know the Heavenly King palm?" Guo Zhangjing asked. Chu Li nodded. "I cultivated it by chance. Unfortunately, I didn't get the unique Heavenly King technique, so I couldn't grasp its essence. It's rare to cultivate the Heavenly King palm to this level without the unique Heavenly King technique. Coincidentally, I'm also familiar with the Heavenly King palm. Let's learn from each other." As soon as he finished speaking, he did not wait for Chu Li to reply and struck with his palm. The Heavenly King palm gathered spiritual energy in the air and instantly formed an extremely realistic palm print. It was as fast as lightning and arrived in front of Chu Li in an instant. Chu Li used the Heavenly King palm too. The two Heavenly King palms collided in the air. Chu Li flew backward and caught up with Jin Xianming, who was in the air. Chu Li spat out a mouthful of blood and hit Jin Xianming's chest with the Heavenly King palm. Jin Xianming flew out again and spat out blood in the air. Humph, what a profound cultivation level. I'm impressed. Another palm. Guo Zhongjing shouted. Bam! A green shadow flashed, and Elder Fong suddenly appeared in front of Chu Li. She pushed her palms forward and collided with the Heavenly King palm. She staggered 2 steps, and her face turned red for a while before returning to normal. She said coldly, Senior Gua, do you know your crime for obstructing the Heaven's Punishment Hall's disciple? Oh. Guo Zhongjing's face darkened, and he said coldly, You want to punish me? Elder Gua, do you admit that you're a disciple of the longevity sect? Elder Fong asked. Guo Zhongjing said slowly, Of course I'm a disciple of the longevity sect. That's good. As the former lord of the Heaven's Punishment Hall, you should know the rules of the Heaven's Punishment Hall, right? Elder Fong scoffed. Why? You want to cripple my martial arts? Guo Zhongjing sneered and said lightly, Or palace punishment. He was familiar with the longevity sect's rules and naturally knew the punishment for raping and killing an innocent girl, crippling his martial arts and the root of his offspring. From then on, he would be an incomplete man and live a life worse than death. Elder Fong said, There are no exceptions for the disciples of the longevity sect, including you, Senior Gua. Hee. Guo Zhongjing was so angry that he laughed. He did not expect young Fan to have such courage and murderous intent. She hated him so much. Could this be a trap? A trap targeted at him? Elder Fong said lightly, If Senior Gua doesn't want to be punished, that's easy. You just have to admit that you're no longer a disciple of the longevity sect. Of course I'm a disciple of the longevity sect. Guo Zhongjing shook his head and said, However, it's impossible for me to be punished. Who said that I obstructed the Heaven's Punishment Hall's disciple? Did this guy escape? As he finished, he appeared in front of Jin Xianming in a flash. Jin Xianming was still flying in the air when he was suddenly pulled in front of Elder Fong. He was terrified. He had been afraid of this moment. When it suddenly came, he realized that he was even more afraid. Guo Zhongjing slammed his palm down, and Jin Xianming collapsed to the ground. Only his eyes were darting around, showing fear and pleading. Elder Fong frowned. Guo Zhongjing chuckled and said, As for Bailey Na, he's only sparring with the Heavenly King Palm. His Heavenly King Palm is quite proficient. It's a pity that he doesn't cultivate the supreme Heavenly King technique. In my opinion, he should cultivate it. After all, the Heavenly King Hall only exists in name. Thank you for your concern, Senior Gua. Elder Fong said coldly. However, Senior Gua, do you think you could get away with this? What kind of punishment is it to intentionally hurt a disciple of the Heaven's Punishment Hall? Guo Zhongjing's face darkened. He had already given Elder Fong a way out of this embarrassing situation. However, she insisted on going against him. Did she think that he was soft? Easy to bully. Chapter 3582. All right, I'd like to see how far Suen can go, Lu Yurong said slowly. Not only did this incident hurt Chu Li's reputation, but also hurt her heart. She did not expect that her hard work would lead to such an outcome. She had always been able to see through people's hearts and was wise, but she still ended up like this. Therefore, she no longer had any loyalty towards the crown prince and the emperor. Instead, she wanted to take revenge. If Suen could take the throne, she would applaud and praise him. She would also want to help. Chu Li said, It'll be difficult, but it's not impossible. Lu Yurong said, With our abilities, we can make the impossible possible. Chu Li smiled. You're willing to help? Isn't this quite interesting? Lu Yurong smiled. Chu Li nodded to himself. As expected, Lu Yurong would help. Lu Yurong said, But you can't go overboard with your fight with the public house. It's best to cover it up as much as possible. Otherwise, people will believe you even more. What do you have in mind? Chu Li smiled. Lu Yurong picked up the white jade teacup and took a sip. She looked at him with a smile. Chu Li smiled. Don't worry, I won't drag the Ren public house into this. Lu Yurong smiled. You can imagine that. We'll just send out the invitation, and the E-public house won't send anyone over. This is enough. There's no need to do anything else. Chu Li nodded slowly. He felt that it made sense. Then it settled. I've discussed it with Big Brother and the others. We'll get married in 5 days, Lu Yurong said. That's a good day. Please take care of me in the future. She closed fists, saluted, and looked at Chu Li with a smile. Same to you. Chu Li closed fists, saluted, and smiled. I thought it was a small matter. I didn't think it would escalate to this point. This was the power of a prince, especially a prince from the Fu dynasty. One word from him could decide the fate of others. Even someone as strong as Chu Li and as intelligent as Lu Yurong could only suffer when faced with the power of a prince from the Fu dynasty. Lu Yurong sighed and nodded lightly. At first, she thought that the emperor would try to shield Chu Li for the sake of the fact that he was a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. Then, she would hide for a while and the matter would be over. Never did she expect that the emperor would make such a move. It was so disappointing. Chu Li said, everything will pass. You can come back anytime you want in the future. You know what I'm capable of. Lu Yurong forced a smile. Chu Li smiled and said, Goddess Attraction Mountain is a cultivation sanctuary. If you cultivate there, you'll be able to advance very quickly. It's a blessing in disguise. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes at him. I'd rather not have this fortune. Chu Li had a huge mansion in Chongming town. It was decorated with a festive atmosphere. It was noon, and the sun shone brightly on the Chu estate. Guests were coming and going, and the entire hall and several side courtyards were filled with people. All the public houses sent people over. Most of them were junior high dukes or young masters from the public houses. As Chu Li's reputation grew, the people in the martial arts world started to show him some respect. Disciples from all 4 major sects came to attend the banquet. Xue Ling, Su Ru, and Li Yu brought a few scribes and maids to attend. Although it was lively, it was orderly. Chu Li personally welcomed the guests in front of the main door. He was dressed in a red robe with a pair of golden wings on his head. He was full of joy. He wanted to put on a show until the end. Fa Yuan brought a few monks with him. His gray robe did not diminish his elegant demeanor. His brows were sharp and his eyes were bright. The 4 middle-aged monks behind him all had high cultivation levels. They were all grandmasters. Congratulations, Brother Chu. Fa Yuan smiled at Chu Li and bowed with pressed palms. I didn't expect Brother Chu and Miss Lu to get married. When he and Lu Yurong escorted Chu Li to the Imperial Mausoleum, he had already noticed Lu Yurong's strange thoughts. However, he did not point it out. He also felt that it was impossible for the 2 of them to be together. They were both too smart. It would be difficult for them to be together. He never thought that they would really become husband and wife. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. I hope it goes smoothly. I don't think we are fated to be together. He naturally would not tell Fa Yuan the inside story. Fa Yuan understood the meaning behind his words. He raised his brows and said calmly, now that things have come to this, the emperor should stop, right? Chu Li shook his head. Our emperor is not someone who can stop. Although I'm not talented, I will still stand by Brother Chu's side, Fa Yuan said. Chu Li smiled. Thank you, monk. As the 2 were talking, another group of people came, carrying heavy gifts. Chief Chu, congratulations. The leader of this group of people was an old man with bright eyes. He was a grandmaster. Thank you, hero. Chu Li closed fist, saluted, and smiled. Please come in. This old man was the top master of Small Goose Hiking Mountain. Chu Li had only met him once. The old man closed fist, saluted, and laughed. He did not expect Chu Li to remember him. He was happy and brought the people into the Chu residence. Chu Li continued to talk to Fa Yuan. Fa Yuan, I have become a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. I am considered a member of the Fu dynasty. The Tempest Temple can rest assured now, right? As a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain, he became a member of the Fu dynasty. Even if he became the emperor and was given the title of enlightened master, he would occupy the Fu dynasty's quota. He would not occupy the Ji dynasty's quota. The Tempest Temple could also rest assured. Fa Yuan smiled. Thank you, Brother Chu. He knew that he could not compete with Chu Li. The temple would send people to weaken Chu Li. He could not stop them and did not want to. Even if he had a profound dermic base, he would never give up on becoming an enlightened master. This concerned the Tempest Temple's fate. Chu Li shook his head. We are friends. It's best if we don't kill each other. The emperor did not act appropriately this time. If there are any difficulties, the temple will help, Fa Yuan said. Chu Li smiled. Then please give me some good jade talismans. Fa Yuan nodded slowly. All right. The value of jade talismans did not lie in the jade material, but in the time it took to refine them. Chu Li had the ability to set up formations, but it was not easy to refine formation talismans. It seemed like he wanted to set up a big formation. Jade talismans were also precious to the Tempest Temple, but compared to Chu Li's favor, they were nothing. As they spoke, the sound of hooves could be heard. 9 purple robe riders arrived in front of the Chu residence. Many people in the distance recognized them. They were Imperial House protectors. Chu Li stared at them with a frown. He shook his head and sighed. They're finally here. Fa Yuan looked at the 9 Imperial House protectors and sighed. Brother Chu, feel free to do as you please. Chu Li smiled. Is Chu Li here? The leading middle-aged man raised his voice. Chu Li fist saluted. I'm Chu Li. We are here on His Majesty's orders. Chu Li will leave immediately to meet His Majesty in Fairy's capital. He took out a shining golden scroll from his inner pocket. It was an imperial edict. He held it with both hands and glided down from his horse to Chu Li. He presented it to him. His upper body did not move, but his feet moved. It was as if he had glided to Chu Li. He said, Chu Li, receive the edict. Chu Li looked at him and shook his head. I'll be getting married in an hour. The 9 protectors have come all the way here. An hour won't make much of a difference. Please forgive me. How dare you? The middle-aged Imperial House protector said, Why are you still not receiving the edict? Fa Yuan pressed his palms together and bowed. Why do you have to make things difficult for Brother Chu? We'll be getting married soon. What's the big deal if we depart after that? Chapter 3584. Sigh. Chu Li let out a long sigh and shook his head with a bitter smile. Bishop, Elder Fong, I really don't have the face to see anyone anymore. I'm a burden all the time, and I didn't contribute at all. Who said you didn't contribute? Elder Fong smiled. If you didn't sacrifice yourself to save me, I might not have been able to escape Sun Mingyue's pursuit. Chu Li shook his head and smiled bitterly. Elder, you think too highly of me. It's not because of me that Sun Mingyue didn't go after you. Even if I used the sacrificial divine power, I wouldn't have been able to stop her. It's good that you understand. Song Jifan scoffed. When you go back, don't come out again. Just cultivate in the floating mountain and only come out to do things when you reach the 6th level of the ageless longevity technique. Chu Li quickly said, Bishop, I'm afraid of delaying something important. I'm quite familiar with Chongming Town. I was careless this time, but it won't happen again. Song Jifan's face darkened and stared at him. You still don't want to give up? You still want to fight Chu Li? Bishop, Chu Li sighed. Am I supposed to watch Chu Li roam free and do nothing? You can do anything after you've mastered your martial arts. Song Jifan scoffed. This was also what he said to himself. There is only one way to defeat Chu Li. Cultivate hard until his martial arts far surpass Chu Li's. It would not be too late to take revenge. Chu Li shook his head and said, Cult leader can do this, but I can't. I know that even if I train hard for the rest of my life, I won't be able to defeat Chu Li. He's really too powerful. He's a true genius, a genius like cult leader. He's not someone a mortal like me can reach. Elder Fong chuckled. Bailey Na, you're a genius too. It's just that you were born at the wrong time and had bad luck. As long as you go back to the floating mountain and train hard, you'll have the chance to take revenge one day. Chu Li shook his head. Even if I can defeat Chu Li, I'm afraid Bishop won't let me wait until then. Chu Li would have been killed by Bishop. Ha! Song Jifan suddenly laughed. Chu Li's words had fulfilled his long-cherished wish, and he could not help but feel carefree. Elder Fong cast a sidelong glance at Chu Li and said faintly, Bishop, in my opinion, it's better to slow down. Slow down what? Song Jifan stopped smiling and asked casually. Elder Fong said, Let's slow down on dealing with Chu Li. Song Jifan frowned and looked at Elder Fong with a displeased expression. Elder, you also think that I can't defeat Chu Li, right? Elder Fong nodded yes. Chu Li hurriedly signaled Elder Fong with his eyes, signaling her not to say such things. However, Elder Fong ignored it and said calmly, "Bishop, you should know, you just don't want to admit it. Chu Li's cultivation level is higher now. Bishop won't be able to get away with it." "That might not be the case." Song Jifan snorted. "This guy is too cunning. Every time I want to use my trump card, he dodges it." Elder Fong shook her head. "The bishop has an advantage over Chu Li. It's just that the bishop has never used it." "What advantage?" Song Jifan asked. Elder Fong said, "Bishop's advancement is faster than Chu Li's. The ageless longevity technique is more exquisite." That's true." Song Jifan nodded proudly. The ageless longevity technique was the most powerful technique in the world. It was definitely better than the dragon taming technique that Chu Li cultivated. The dragon taming technique was not considered a top antique study. It was not even worthy of carrying the shoes of the ageless longevity technique 1,000 years ago. Elder Fong said, "If that's the case, why are you in a hurry to find Chu Li? As long as you calm down and cultivate for a year, you'll be able to defeat him easily. There's no need to waste too much effort." "A year." Song Jifan frowned and thought about it. In the end, he shook his head and sighed. "I really can't wait for a year." "Bishop." Elder Fong was a little impatient. Song Jifan waved his hand and said, "Let me think about it." "Yes." Elder Fong nodded helplessly. Song Jifan closed his eyes again and began to channel. A few wrinkles slowly disappeared from his withered face. Elder Fong stood up and left. Chu Li took a deep breath and followed Elder Fong to a wooden house in the distance. "Elder, I have something to say," Chu Li hurriedly said. Elder Fong gave him a sidelong glance. Her long and narrow eyes squinted slightly. "Speak," Chu Li said. "Elder, it's best that you don't persuade the bishop to let go." "Oh." Elder Fong smiled faintly. "Why?" Chu Li sighed. "This isn't just a problem with the heaven regaining sword. It's also a fight for a man's dignity. I feel that if the bishop can't win against Chu Li, he'll always be dissatisfied. He won't be able to calm down when he cultivates. It'll be detrimental to his advancement. Based on what you're saying, the bishop will always fight against Chu Li and suffer losses." Elder Fong scoffed. Chu Li said, "Keep fighting despite repeated defeats. The more you suffer, the braver you become. This is beneficial to the bishop. Moreover, the bishop is very competitive and full of youthful vigor. How is it possible for him to hide like a turtle and not come out? Elder, why waste your energy and make the bishop unhappy? As long as I think it's right, I'll definitely say it." Elder Fong said, "I won't just flatter him." Chu Li sighed. "Since the bishop is the bishop, we, as his subordinates, only need to listen to his orders. As for what to do, the bishop will decide. You're a good subordinate." Elder Fong scoffed softly. "You have a bright future. Which bishop wouldn't like such a subordinate? Moreover, he had already shown enough loyalty. The bishop would obviously trust him. Bailey now is also a smart guy." It was estimated that he would soon climb to the middle level of the church. Then, he would move up step by step. In the end, his position might not be lower than hers. Thinking about this, she sighed. "Fine, I'll listen to you. I won't persuade the bishop to let go." She just felt unhappy if she didn't say it. In fact, she understood the bishop's difficulties. It was not just because he was competitive. The reason was unknown to Bailey Na. Chu Li smiled. "Elder is wise. Don't give me that. Go and cultivate your martial arts." Elder Fong waved her hand. Chu Li Fist saluted and left. It was no wonder that Elder Fong's temperament did not change. She was still young. It was because she was a simple person. She was strict and inflexible. When she should not be merciful, she would not be merciful. Moreover, her martial arts was excellent. That was why she was feared in the floating mountain. In the evening 3 days later, Chu Li's injuries recovered quickly. He could only cultivate the first level of the ageless longevity technique, but it was exquisite. Moreover, Song Jifan had removed Sun Mingyue's inner energy. Hence, he recovered quickly. As the three of them were eating together, Song Jifan suddenly said, "Elder Fong, I've decided to enter the 100,000 hills again. Chu Li cried out, "Bishop, you can't." Song Jifan's face returned to his youthful handsomeness. The original haggard look disappeared. Elder Fong's expression changed too. After a while, she was not in a hurry to object. She muttered, "Bishop, are you confident?" "I've thought of an idea," Song Jifan said calmly. "I made a mistake the last time. I shouldn't have entered as an enlightened master. I should have entered as a grandmaster. The Supreme Spirit Beasts would not have such a strong reaction." "What about this time?" Elder Fong frowned. "What are you going to do, Bishop?" "I'll destroy half of my cultivation level and enter as an innate master." Song Jifan smiled. "Once I get the Spirit Beast, I'll destroy my cultivation level after devouring it. I'll keep myself as an innate master. I'll just strengthen my body and ignore my inner energy cultivation level." "Good idea." Elder Fong nodded slowly. "But it's dangerous." Chapter 3586. Everyone stared at him with their eyes wide open. Under the sunlight, he gently shook his long sword in the air and returned it to its scabbard. He stood in the void as if he was walking on flat ground and looked down at the crowd. His body was covered in a bright light, like a god descending to earth, imprinted in everyone's mind. Although Chu Li was not an enlightened master, he had learned the skills of an enlightened master. He had a thorough understanding of the void and reached the state of being an integral part of heaven and man. Therefore, he could stand in the void without moving like an enlightened master. Huang Jin's head and body were like two feathers that slowly fell to the ground as if they were weightless. The crowd looked on in surprise. Although it was cruel and scary, the more they did not want to look, the more they stared. The body and head slowly became brighter as if a layer of water fell on his body. Gradually, the body and head became brighter and brighter until they became two balls of light that could not be looked at directly. It was so dazzling. However, the situation was too strange. The people knew that it was not appropriate and should close their eyes, but they stared at it with their eyes wide open, watching as it turned into two white lights and shot into the sky. The late autumn sky was especially blue, as if it had been washed. A few white clouds floated leisurely. At this moment, a door of light slowly opened. It was a huge and majestic door of light. Even from far above the clouds, the crowd felt as if it was a prison. Their knees went weak, and they wanted to kneel on the ground. Chu Li scoffed. "It really is a celestial being." His shout resounded throughout the city. When the people who were about to kneel heard this shout, like a big bell being rung, their bodies suddenly trembled. They were freed from the majestic prison and stood up straight again. They could not help but tremble as they watched the door of light slowly open. Then, the two lights merged into one and entered the door of light. Then, the door of light slowly closed and gradually disappeared into the clouds. Chu Li stood in the void and looked down at the crowd. He raised his voice and said, "The other 9 celestial beings, are you not going to come out and greet me?" The crowd turned around and looked around, feeling excited. They did not expect Chu Li to get rid of one person so easily, and it was a celestial being at that. Celestials only appeared in legends. In their impression, celestials were powerful and invincible. They lived for tens of thousands of years and were the most enviable existences. No matter how rich their imagination was, no matter how much confidence they had in Chu Li, when they saw these people treating the protectors of the High Duke's public house like adults beating up children, they did not dare to have too much hope. Moreover, Chu Li had not appeared for a long time, so they subconsciously thought that Chu Li was hiding and thinking of ways to deal with him. They never thought that they would see such a scene. They were trembling with excitement. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to witness the death of a celestial being. It was enough for them to brag to their sons and grandsons for the rest of their lives. Chongming Town had a rule that even a celestial being could not break. As the people of Chongming Town, they were all proud of it. As a celestial being, you still want to hide? Chu Li laughed loudly. Could it be that you're afraid of me? Chu Li, you really live up to your reputation. A cold laugh rang out, and then 9 people appeared in the sky, surrounding Chu Li. These 9 people were different in shape and appearance. The only thing they had in common was that their bodies were slowly emitting brilliance, and the brilliance was getting brighter and brighter, overpowering the noon sun. People were shocked. There were 9 celestial beings, not just one. Looking at this posture, it was obvious that the 9 of them were going to join forces. Hey, if you have the guts, come to me one by one. 9 against 1, what kind of man are you? What kind of celestial being are you? It's so embarrassing. Someone shouted. The 9 people ignored him and just surrounded Chu Li, slowly approaching him. Chu Li glanced at the 9 people and shook his head. Look at you. You don't have the appearance of a celestial being. Such courage. It's really embarrassing for a celestial being. I'm embarrassed for you. Don't try to be eloquent. Chu Li, you dare to kill a celestial being. How dare you? An old man said slowly. His eyebrows were pale, and his face was full of wrinkles. He did not look like a celestial being at all. However, at this time, as the brilliance around his body brightened, the wrinkles on his face gradually faded and finally disappeared. From an old face, he became a middle-aged man. This slight change was presented in front of everyone's eyes, and they were amazed. Chu Li smiled. Why can't celestials be killed? Mortals can't kill celestials. Only heavenly rules can. The old man said in a low voice. He had become a middle-aged man, and his face was square and stern. He said with a stern expression, now that you've killed a celestial being, you've already broken heavenly rules. Don't blame me for not reminding you. Chu Li laughed. So, when faced with celestials like you, I can only obediently accept my death? That's the biggest joke in the world. That's right, he said slowly. If that's the case, we'll send you to heaven. When you reach the Outland, you'll know the consequences. As soon as he finished speaking, the other 8 people, who were shining brightly, attacked together. Bam, 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 bam. Chu Li was hit by the 9 people like a sandbag. It was as if he had become stupid and did not know how to dodge. He took all 9 hits head-on. The 9 people's expressions changed slightly. Chu Li's expression did not change. His white robe fluttered, and he smiled at the 9 people. He shook his head. Is that all you've got? After cultivating the black tortoise power, his indestructible body of titanium became stronger. The 9 people's palm energy could not break through the indestructible body of titanium. It was like scratching an itch. You? The middle-aged man frowned at him. Chu Li shook his head. Is that all you celestials are capable of? You've disappointed me. Good, good. The middle-aged man said slowly. You really have some tricks up your sleeves. Again, the other 8 people looked solemn. They would not be able to take a hit head-on without getting injured. It was obvious that Chu Li's cultivation level was higher than theirs. They had to use their ultimate study. If the 9 of them could not kill Chu Li, they would become the laughingstock of the world. Instead of becoming famous, they would become a laughingstock. Who would be willing to become their disciple? How could they strengthen their faction? Swoosh! Chu Li suddenly appeared behind the middle-aged man, and the sword at his waist flashed. He used the tiger taming technique and the spirit tiger's spiritual energy to activate the heaven-slaughtering 3 forms. Coupled with his tyrannical strength, the speed of his sword was beyond imagination. Even if the middle-aged man was prepared, he could not avoid it in time. The head was separated from the body, and blood spurted out like a pillar. It was beautiful and scary under the noon sun. The people screamed in shock, but they were even more excited. The head and body shone again, and then a light door appeared in the sky. It slowly opened, and the people felt like they were in a prison again. But this time, they resisted the urge to kneel. They stared at the 2 rays of light that merged into one and went into the light door. The light door slowly closed, and the world returned to peace. The people's eyes fell on the remaining 8 celestial beings. The 8 celestial beings' faces were pale, and they stared at Chu Li. Their gazes were like burning torches, and their killing intent was like boiling water. They wanted to tear Chu Li apart. The dignity of the celestial beings was shattered by him. From now on, the world would never respect the celestial beings like this. Chu Li looked at the 8 people calmly and said, Which one of you has killed the protector of the High Duke's public house? We have. The 8 people sneered. Chu Li nodded. Then, everyone, return to heaven. After he said that, he disappeared and appeared next to another celestial being. The 8 of them immediately attacked him. The power of the celestial beings was beyond imagination. They seemed to be far away from him, but in the next moment, they were close. Chapter 35:87. Chu smiled. You still need my help? Tell me about it. He was not in a hurry to agree. He had a deep friendship with Fa Yuan, and they helped each other. However, he was wary of Liao Ming and could not make any promises. Liao Ming said calmly, I'm preparing to ascend to heaven in advance. Chu was shocked. It's not time yet, right? Under normal circumstances, I would have to wait for another 2 years. Liao Ming nodded calmly. But times are pressing. If I don't leave now, I'm afraid. He shook his head lightly. Chu immediately understood what he meant. Fa Yuan's martial arts skills improved rapidly, but it could not stop the rise of geniuses. After the Deva descended, there would definitely be more geniuses cultivated and unearthed. Originally, Fa Yuan needed to wait 2 years before taking over the position. Now, it seemed that there might be someone more powerful in 2 years. Just like himself, he went from scribe without any martial arts to a top-notch master in less than 2 years. There might be a second Chu Li. To be safe, it was better to let Fa Yuan take over as soon as possible. What do you want me to do, master? Chu Li asked. Liao Ming said, now that the world is in chaos, I won't have peace even if I want to ascend to heaven. There will be people coming to cause trouble. Even Deva will come to disturb me. Chu Li nodded and looked at him. He guessed what Liao Ming wanted him to do, but pretended not to know. He wanted Liao Ming to say it himself. Liao Ming sighed. Almsgiver Chu, come and protect Fa Yuan. What do you think? Chu Li smiled. Of course, it's my duty. Liao Ming sighed in relief. He smiled and pressed his palms together. Thank you, Almsgiver Chu. Chu Li pressed his palms together. You're welcome, master. I'm not helping because of you. I'm helping Fa Yuan. Of course. Liao Ming nodded. But I have to remind you, Almsgiver Chu, don't kill Deva if you can. Chu Li frowned. There's something I don't understand. Can Deva kill mortals at will? No. Liao Ming shook his head. Monk Liao Ming shook his head. Everything has its cause and effect. The power of karma is so strong that even a celestial cannot go against it. Killing mortals is a grave sin. Killing one more person means one more sin. When we return to the realm beyond heavens, we will be punished even more severely. What punishment? Chu Li scoffed. The lightest punishment would be losing one's lifespan and cultivation. The most severe punishment would be direct reincarnation and banishment from the realm beyond heavens. Monk Liao Ming sighed. This is already the heaviest punishment. You won't let them disappear into thin air? Chu Li scoffed. Monk Liao Ming shook his head slowly. No. Chu Li's face darkened as he slowly nodded. This was clearly not treating mortals as humans and could not be exchanged for their lives. Monk Liao Ming said, a celestial killing a mortal is a grave sin, but a mortal killing a celestial, the sin is even heavier. Almsgiver Chu, I don't have to say any more. You should know the consequences. What are the consequences of me killing 5 celestials? Chu Li scoffed. Monk Liao Ming sighed and said, when you reach the realm beyond heaven, even if you don't reincarnate, I'm afraid your cultivation will be crippled and you will become an ordinary celestial being. At that time, how can the celestial beings you killed not come to seek revenge? You can imagine how difficult it is to live. What will happen to the Deva I've killed after they return to the Grandmaster's boundary? Chu Li asked. They will lose their cultivation, Monk Liao Ming said, and become an ordinary celestial being. Chu Li nodded slowly. If that's the case, then kill them. Almsgiver Chu, be careful. Monk Liao Ming said in a low voice. Chu Li scoffed. Who can tell what will happen in the future? Kill them first. Sigh. Monk Liao Ming looked at him helplessly and said slowly, Heaven's power is like a prison. No one can resist it. Almsgiver Chu, think carefully, that's all I have to say. Chu Li said, Thank you for the reminder. When will it be? In 3 days, Monk Liao Ming said. Chu Li said, All right, 2 days later, I will go to the Tempest Temple. Thank you, almsgiver Chu. Monk Liao Ming pressed his palms together and slowly disappeared. Chu Li pondered for a moment, then suddenly disappeared in a flash. A tall, middle-aged man dressed in a purple robe stood at the peak of the mountain. The cold mountain wind blew at his purple robe as he looked down at the vast land. His expression was somewhat dazed. Initially, when he received the mission to return to this world, he was somewhat happy. After all, he was born and grew up here, and he had left for 200 years. Now that he was back, he felt that things were still the same, but the people had changed, and there was also a sense of familiarity. However, at this time, the martial arts world had been turned upside down. Chu Li had risen to power, and Du Feng in the south and Chu Li in the north. Du Feng had disappeared without a trace, and it was said that he was in isolated cultivation after receiving an attack from an enlightened master, and had not appeared since. Some people thought that he was dead, some thought that he was cultivating a divine technique. Chu Li, on the other hand, was like a comet streaking across the sky, shining brightly. He killed an enlightened master with his status as a grandmaster, and suppressed the enlightened master to the point where no one could stop him. It was a huge joke. He returned to this world to strengthen the sect, to recruit more disciples, and to train them into grandmasters so that they could ascend to the Outland and strengthen the sect's strength in the Outland. If he wanted to strengthen the sect and recruit more qualified disciples, he would not know how long it would take if he had to search for them alone. It was far better to let those qualified disciples come to him on their own. If he wanted to do that, he would have to be famous and become the top master. And if he wanted to be famous, the fastest way was to defeat Chu Li and amaze the world. Unfortunately, Chu Li was too strange. He did not know what sword technique he used, but he could actually kill a celestial. If he really returned to the Outland with a face full of dirt, he would definitely become a laughingstock and be demoted to the lowest level disciple of the sect. He did not know how many years it would take to climb back up. Thinking of this, his fighting spirit rose again. He could not admit defeat like this. Even if he died, he had to take Chu Li with him. If he could kill Chu Li, he would have an explanation when he returned to the Outland, and he could be absolved of most of his crimes. Just as he thought of this, Chu Li slowly appeared behind him, and then he slashed down with his sword. The purple-robed middle-aged man's body suddenly shone brightly, like a scorching sun falling down. He had already used the secret skill of destroying everything indiscriminately, and all his power burst out. After this attack, he would die without a doubt, but he could also kill Chu Li. Chu Li suddenly retreated and waved his long sword. Ding, 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 ding. Invisible power hit the long sword, and it was shattered by the sword light. The remaining power hit Chu Li's white robe, and the white robe shook violently, and he retreated 100 meters in the void. Another light door appeared in the sky, and then a white light shot towards the light door. The figure of the purple-robed middle-aged man appeared in front of the light door, looked down at Chu Li with some unwillingness, and then went into the light door and disappeared. Chu Li frowned. The Celestial's last attack was really powerful, but fortunately, he had the diamond indestructible body, or else he would have died. He disappeared again, and the next moment he appeared next to another Celestial, waved his sword, and killed him without any hindrance. He did not let any of the remaining Celestials go, and with the palm force that they left in his body, Chu Li found them one by one, and then killed them one by one. He did not see any Celestials coming to kill him. Chu Li's heart was a little heavy, and he knew that once he stepped into the Outland, the road would be extremely difficult because he had offended too many people, not only Celestials, but also enlightened masters. Now that things had come to this, he could only desperately cultivate and reach the peak. Even if he went to the Outland, he would reach the level of Song Wuji, and he would not have to suffer anymore. Chapter 3588. Chu Li returned to his courtyard in the High Duke's public house and sat under the Glorieswell tree. The rich spiritual energy of the Glorieswell tree nourished his body. He felt refreshed, and his mind was exceptionally clear. He did not feel uncomfortable killing heavenly beings at all. After they died, they immediately turned into a ray of light and ascended to the outland. He did not feel like they were being killed at all. This made Chu Li hate it. Heavenly beings seemed to be of a higher status than the mortals here. Even if they died, they would not really die. Under the moonlight, his expression was solemn. Suddenly, a white figure flashed by, and Shao Qi appeared in front of him. Chu Li looked at her in shock. Shao Qi was dressed in a snow-white robe. Her face was as white as jade, and her cold eyes were smiling. "How's my void diversion?" Chu Li was surprised. "You know it too?" "Yes." Shao Qi nodded. "It's actually just a thin layer of paper that can be broken with a gentle poke. I just haven't been able to properly understand it. Because of you, I've been lazy." She had never thought of learning it, because whenever she thought of Chu Li, she could call him over and he would immediately send her to wherever she wanted to go. Just like in Chu Li's past life, he did not need to drive as long as he had chauffeur. Chu Li nodded. "Is it the regal sword scripture?" "Yes." Shao Qi smiled. "The regal sword can break the void, but I've never understood it. Master just gave me a gentle poke, and I immediately understood it, so I could come over." Chu Li smiled and nodded. "Do you have something to tell me?" Shao Qi sighed. "I'm here to persuade you." Chu Li raised an eyebrow. Shao Qi said, "Don't kill heavenly beings anymore." Chu Li frowned. "Master Hui Qing said that?" "Master meant well," Shao Qi said. "Heavenly beings have a different identity. They're different from the masters of our world. Killing heavenly beings will cause endless trouble, especially when they enter the Outland in the future." Chu Li laughed. "Who said I'm going to enter the Outland in the future? Don't enter the Outland." Shao Qi was surprised. "After becoming an enlightened master, you have to enter the Outland even if you don't want to." Chu Li shook his head. "Even if you enter the Outland, you don't have to stay there. Goddess Attraction Mountain's disciples are the same. Master can enter the Outland at will. He was a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain, so he naturally had this kind of authority. His plan was to spend less time in Beyond Avalon. As long as he stayed in this world, no one could do anything to him." Shao Qi said, "Your master will ascend to the Grand Master's boundary sooner or later. For the sake of the future, it's better to kill fewer celestial beings." Chu Li looked at her helplessly and nodded lightly. Shao Qi smiled sweetly and held his big hand with her jade-like hand. She sighed and said, "Let the Celestials do whatever they want. As long as they don't do anything reckless, I'm sure they won't dare to provoke you again after this." Chu Li said, "All right, as long as they don't provoke me, I won't bother with them. However, if they provoke me, then don't blame me for being rude." "All right." Shao Qi was very satisfied with the result. The two of them held hands and were about to hug each other when a silhouette appeared. Lu Yurong appeared behind them in a white dress. Her face was covered with a white veil, revealing only a pair of bright eyes. She looked at them with a smile. Shao Qi looked at her with a frown and scoffed. "Lady Lu, you're in such a good mood to come here. I'm also Chu Li's wife." Lu Yurong chuckled. "Of course I can come, right?" "Lady Lu seems to want to make it real," Shao Qi said lightly. Lu Yurong nodded, her beautiful eyes full of smiles. "That's not impossible. What do you think, Lady Shao?" "You'll have to ask Chu Li," Shao Qi scoffed. Chu Li hurriedly waved his hand. "Lady Lu, you don't come without a reason. If you have something to say, just say it. Isn't this a little inconvenient?" Lu Yurong glanced at Shao Qi. Chu Li said impatiently, "Do you want me to leave too? That would be more convenient." Lu Yurong chuckled. "Both of you can't joke around. All right, I'm here to give you some advice. Don't kill celestial beings anymore." Chu Li frowned. "Is that the words of the mysterious lady of the 9 heavens sect leader?" Lu Yurong nodded. "Yes, the leader means well. If you kill celestial beings, there will be endless trouble, especially when you reach the Grandmaster's boundary." Chu Li said, "I really have no choice." "All right, I'll be careful." Lu Yurong chuckled. "Lady Shao, you've also become a disciple of celestial beings, right?" "That's right." Shao Qi nodded. Lu Yurong said, "Then let's see who can reach the Grandmaster's boundary first." "All right," Shao Qi said. Lu Yurong waved her hand and smiled sweetly. Then, she suddenly disappeared. Shao Qi retracted her gaze and glanced at Chu Li. Chu Li sighed. Celestial beings and celestial beings are on the same side, after all. It'll be troublesome in the future. It's fine, Xiaoqi said. Just do what you want. Chuli smiled and hugged her tightly. The Tempest Temple still stood majestically under the setting sun. Under the setting sun, the Tempest Temple was majestic and solemn. The faint sound of chanting could be heard, and the faint fragrance of sandalwood filled the air, adding a sense of serenity and calmness. As soon as Chuli appeared outside the temple door opened before he could even knock on the door. Fa Yuan, dressed in a gray frock, slowly walked down the stairs. He smiled and pressed his palms together. Brother Chu. Chuli smiled as he looked at Fa Yuan. Fa Yuan's gray frock fluttered in the wind. He looked like a handsome man that was rarely seen. His bald head shone under the setting sun. He had a calm demeanor, much calmer than before. He had the demeanor of an eminent monk. Chuli praised. I didn't expect your cultivation level to improve so much. Fa Yuan's current cultivation level was profound. It was obvious that he had cultivated some kind of divine technique, which greatly improved his cultivation level. He even received enlightenment. If they can kill me, their disciples might have a chance. Chuli was stunned, and his expression changed slightly. He suddenly thought of the elusive Ninth Heaven sect and Hui Qing. Chapter 3589. Chuli asked thoughtfully, what are these celestial beings doing down here? Fa Yuan looked up at the sky and whispered, from what I know, it's to train disciples. As long as they become grandmasters, they'll be able to step into the Outland and become a powerful ally. What powerful ally does the Outland need? Chuli frowned. I know there's been a huge change in the Outland, but I don't know what it is. I don't know either. Fa Yuan shook his head, but I do know that the Outland is in desperate need of manpower. That's why the celestial beings are desperately searching for manpower to train grandmasters as soon as possible. Chuli said, becoming a grandmaster can't be done quickly. It requires comprehension in the surpassing state. He was lucky to be able to break through and become a grandmaster, but the others needed to be in the surpassing state, and the surpassing state was extremely limited in the world. Every single one of them with a unique resource of the famous sects, and they would never lend it to others. It was extremely secretive, and only the core disciples knew about it. Some sects only had 1 or 2 people who knew about it. Fa Yuan sighed. That's why the world will be in chaos. Chuli said, as an enlightened master, you have to deal with a lot of things. That's right. Fa Yuan looked solemn and sighed. I have a long way to go. I'll need Brother Chu's help when the time comes. Chuli waved his hand and smiled. I'm far away and can't help here. I can't count on you, Fa Yuan. The peace of the Ji dynasty needs me and His Majesty's protection, Fa Yuan said seriously. Brother Chu, you're also a citizen of the Ji dynasty. You shouldn't just stand by and watch. Chuli sighed. I'll help if I can. You just said that you won't let me kill more celestial beings. Fa Yuan smiled. Brother Chu can't, but I can. Brother Chu, you just need to help. You don't have to kill them yourself. Chuli raised his eyebrows. Becoming an enlightened master means you can kill celestial beings? Fa Yuan said slowly. An enlightened master killing a celestial being is not a sin. On the contrary, a celestial being killing an enlightened master is a sin. Chuli frowned and thought about the relationship. It seemed that enlightened masters had a higher status than celestial beings, but their martial arts were usually not as good as celestial beings. Otherwise, the Outland would not have increased the enlightened master's martial arts by several times just to deal with celestial beings. Chuli said, this time, the celestial beings will come to cause trouble. What measures does your temple have to deal with them? Sigh. Fa Yuan sighed and shook his head. What a sin. If the celestial being really wanted to make a move, no matter how many people there were, it would be useless. Yet, all the senior brothers and seniors insisted on making a move. Chuli frowned and said, in my opinion, we should ask them to withdraw so that they won't be distracted. I will convey Brother Chu's opinion. Fa Yuan nodded lightly. Chu Li said, but it's strange too. The news of Master Liao Ming's ascension should be kept a secret. Fa Yuan pointed at the sky. Chu Li came to a sudden realization. He scoffed and said nothing more. It was obvious that the news was passed down from the realm beyond heaven. To be able to pass down such secret information, there was simply no way to keep it a secret. The tallest pagoda in the Great Lane Temple was like a sword piercing the sky. Moonlight sprinkled down from the sky, and the moonlight was like water. The three people on the top floor of the pagoda seemed to be draped in a light veil. The three of them were sitting cross-legged in the middle, forming a triangle. Master Liao Ming wore a purple gold robe. His snow-white beard was neatly combed without a single strand of hair out of place. His eyes were slightly closed, and he looked solemn. He bathed in the moonlight without moving, as if he did not know the passage of time. Fa Yuan also wore a purple gold robe. From now on, he was the strongest person in the Tempest Temple, and also the pillar of the Tempest Temple. To Fa Yuan, this was too much of a burden. Master Liao Ming ascended to the enlightened master's position at the age of 93. At that time, he was already very experienced. He had enough wisdom and experience to handle any situation. On the other hand, Fa Yuan was only 26 years old. Although he had been training in the mortal world, he lacked 10 years of experience. Chu Li sat beside the two of them. He was as calm as still water, with the taming tiger divine sword on his knees. Tonight, he might have to go on a killing spree. The surroundings of the pagoda were filled with gray-robed monks. Each of them stood upright like a pine tree, with their palms pressed together motionlessly. It was as if they were statues of Buddha standing beside the pagoda, creating a solemn atmosphere. Kaboom! A sudden clap of thunder sounded in the sky. The sky was clear and cloudless, and the bright moon was not obscured. This clap of thunder was a little strange. It shook the entire sky, and the Tempest Temple seemed to be shaking. Chu Li looked up at the sky. Master Liao Ming also looked up at the sky. After a moment of concentration, he pressed his palms together and sighed. It's time, Fa Yuan. The Tempest Temple will be in your hand from now on. Don't worry, honorable master. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together. Master Liao Ming pressed his palms together at Chu Li. Thank you, almsgiver Chu. Chu Li pressed his palms together. Master, you don't have to be so courteous. If that's the case, then I'm going to ascend to heaven. Master Liao Ming stood up and slowly floated into the void. He looked at the monks on the ground, pressed his palms together, and chanted the name of Buddha. Amitabha, Amitabha. The monks chanted the name of Buddha in unison. It was grand and solemn, and it made people feel deep veneration. Chu Li looked up at Master Liao Ming. His body began to emit light, and soon it was as bright as a moon. The light was gentle at first, but it gradually intensified. Suddenly, a pillar of light descended from the sky. It was as bright as the sun, shining directly on Master Liao Ming's body. At the same time, it shone on Fa Yuan, who was sitting on the pagoda. Fa Yuan's purple gold kasaya fluttered and gradually floated up. It was lifted up by an invisible force and reached the same height as Master Liao Ming. The two of them stood side by side, bathed in the scorching light. They could be seen from a few miles away in the night sky. As Chu Li stood below, he could also feel the spiritual energy from the outland that was almost tangible. Moreover, this spiritual energy was extremely strange. It was different from ordinary spiritual energy, and he could feel his cultivation level rising rapidly just by standing below it. He looked down at the monks under the pagoda and saw them retreating as if avoiding snakes and scorpions. They gave way to the area where the light shone. Chu Li came to a sudden realization. Not everyone could absorb the spiritual energy of the outland. Fa Yuan was able to absorb it because he was the enlightened master chosen by the outland. Chu Li himself was able to absorb it because of the supreme titanium, supreme scripture, and the indestructible body of titanium. Stop! Suddenly, a shout was heard. Then, 9 figures passed by the monks. Their bodies shone brightly and shot above the pagoda. They were about to rush towards Fa Yuan and Master Liao Ming. Chu Li scoffed. As monk Liao Ming expected, there were really celestials disturbing them. He appeared in front of Fa Yuan in a flash. He slowly pulled out his long sword and fully displayed the power of the heaven-killing three forms. The power of the sword shrouded in all directions. The 9 celestials felt the murderous aura. It was as if a sword was stabbing at them. Everyone felt the same. Their bodies could not help but stagnate as they floated down. Chu Li stood in the void and looked down at the 9 of them. He sneered. "If you want to die, then do it. Who are you?" A glowing figure shouted. His voice was like a bronze bell that resounded in the night sky. It could be heard from a few miles away. Chu Li said coldly. "Chu Li." The 9 celestials' expressions changed slightly. Chu Li said, "If you dare to cause trouble, don't blame me for being ruthless. I don't care about the few of you." "Chu Li, do you know the consequences of killing a celestial?" One of them shouted. Chu Li said lightly, "I've killed them. Who cares about the consequences? Scram now." "Good, good," that person shouted. "Let's see how long you can be arrogant." Chapter 3590. Chu Li watched as they dragged their long shadows and disappeared into the sky. He was a little stunned. He never thought that he could scare off the 9 celestial beings so easily. The 9 celestial beings were very powerful. Fa Yuan and monk Liao Ming would not have been able to handle them. However, he could not believe that they were scared off by his words. He turned his head and looked around. He was still a little hesitant. Could it be that they were plotting something? He then shook his head. Under the observation of the omniscient mirror, even the celestial beings would be able to sense it. Indeed, there was no one else. If the 9 celestial beings were scared off by him, it seemed that he had made a name for himself as the celestial being killer. Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud thunder in the sky. A huge pillar of light fell again and enveloped monk Liao Ming alone. Fa Yuan was bounced off and floated to Chu Li's side. Monk Liao Ming looked down at the monks and bowed with pressed palms. Then, he followed the pillar of light and rose into the sky. The huge light door slowly appeared. It was as if it had always been there, but it just hid itself. Now, it returned to its original appearance. The light door was unusually bright. It lit up half the sky and covered the light of the moon. Half the people in the world would be able to see this huge and majestic light door. Monk Liao Ming entered the light door. Before he entered the door, he turned around and bowed with pressed palms again. The monks around the pagoda all bowed and chanted loudly, sending monk Liao Ming to heaven. Through the light door, people could vaguely see the buildings behind the door. There were pavilions and terraces with white lotuses floating in the air. It was a breathtaking scene. The huge light door slowly closed. The sky gradually returned to dusk. Only the bright moon shone brightly. Its clear light shone in the sky. It was quiet and peaceful. Chu Li turned to Fa Yuan. Fa Yuan's purple gold robe fluttered. He still had not completely digested the enlightened master's power. When he felt Chu Li's gaze, he opened his eyes. Suddenly, lightning pierced through the sky, almost blinding people. Chu Li smiled. Fa Yuan, congratulations. It went so smoothly. Fa Yuan bowed with pressed palms and sighed. I didn't expect it to go so smoothly. He also understood that if Chu Li had not been there to scare off the 9 celestial beings, it would have been very difficult for him to get through this tonight. Under the siege of the 9 great celestial beings, Honorable Master Liao Ming was completely powerless to resist, and he would have died without a doubt. Although the Grand Masters had bestowed him the power to become an enlightened master, it was impossible for them to help him fight off his enemies. If these celestial beings killed him, there might already be Grand Masters waiting on the other side, and they would immediately become enlightened masters. It did not matter if he died, as he had already transcended the limits of life and death. However, if the Tempest Temple were to decline, he would become a sinner. From now on, you're an enlightened master. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. How enviable. Fa Yuan smiled. There's no need for Brother Chu to lie to me. An enlightened master like me is beneath you. Chu shook his head and did not say anything. My path is long and boundless. I don't know if I'll be able to walk to the end. It's better if I don't say anything. Let's talk about those devas first. They're lawless. Since you're an enlightened master and can kill them, you should take care of them. Fa Yuan furrowed his brows and said, Celestial beings are not to be trifled with. If we can avoid provoking them, we should. Otherwise, I'm afraid that the disciples of the temple will. Chu scoffed. Fa Yuan, this doesn't sound like something an enlightened master would say. Fa Yuan smiled. What should an enlightened master say? You should be fearless and be the only one in the world. Chu said, These celestial beings need to be taught a lesson. Look at how they were just now, bullying the weak and fearing the strong. As long as you're tough, they won't dare to act recklessly. All right, I'll try my best. Fa Yuan nodded. When the time comes, I'll need Brother Chu's help. Of course. Chu nodded and smiled. With these fellows causing trouble, the Ji dynasty will be in chaos. Many innocent people will die, so it's better to kill them all. Fa Yuan chuckled and shook his head. Brother Chu, don't be so bloodthirsty. It's not good for your body. After this incident, he did not have a good impression of the celestial beings. He could not wait to get rid of them. However, as a monk, he was compassionate. He could not just shout and kill so openly. Chu said, Fa Yuan, you're an enlightened master now. You don't have to be as reserved as before. It's better to be more carefree. That's true. Fa Yuan chuckled. Brother Chu, come with me. Chu looked at him. Fa Yuan came to the side of the pagoda and bowed to the monks below. Honorable masters, senior uncles, senior brothers, junior brothers, please return to your positions. Amipa. The monks bowed solemnly with smiles on their faces. An enlightened master returning to the Tempest Temple was more important than anything else. Although Master Liao Ming had ascended to heaven, the Tempest Temple had one less enlightened master. Now that Fa Yuan had taken over the enlightened master's position, the Tempest Temple was still number one in the Ji dynasty. Chu followed Fa Yuan down the pagoda and arrived at an unfamiliar Zen courtyard. The atmosphere in the Zen courtyard was different from Fa Yuan's. It was antique. The trees in the courtyard were all ancient trees. They were strong and thick, and the spiritual energy was rich. The green brick floor had been polished. Everywhere revealed the vicissitudes of time. It made one's heart calm. Chu looked at the Zen courtyard and smiled. This is a good place. The spiritual energy from hundreds of miles is gathered here. The person who built this courtyard must be a top-notch formation master. Yes, this was built by the ancestral masters. It is the residence of every enlightened master. Fa Yuan nodded. He looked at the antique courtyard with a complicated expression. This was the place of his dreams. Now, he had finally achieved his goal. He had become an enlightened master and did not disappoint the ancestral masters. Chu smiled. This place does not bury the identity of an enlightened master. Why did you bring me here? Fa Yuan smiled and walked into the main house. He quickly came out and handed Chu an antique jade box. The jade box seemed to be made of poor quality broken jade. It could have been that it had been here for too long. Time had corroded the fine jade into this state. Chu smiled and took it. When he opened the jade box, he saw an antique silk book lying in the box. There were 3 big words on the cover. Sparrow Taming Technique. Chu eyes widened. He turned to look at Fa Yuan. Fa Yuan smiled. This is a secret manual in the temple's collection. However, because it is not compatible with our Dharma, no one has cultivated it. It is hidden in the rare scripture pavilion, and no one has asked about it. Chu laughed. You don't have to say more. Those old monks must know about this heart technique, but they did not want to give it to me. Fa Yuan smiled awkwardly, but did not deny it. Chu shook his head. Fa Yuan, none of the old monks in your temple are good. They are really cunning. If I don't help you this time, will I never get this sparrow taming technique? Of course not. Fa Yuan smiled embarrassedly. Brother Chu, the fate between you and this heart technique was not right. After he became an enlightened master, he had absolute control over the Tempest Temple. If he knew about this secret manual, he would not be stingy and give it to Chu Li. However, he did not know about it before. It was the elders who deliberately hid it from him. Chu Li shook his head and smiled as he flipped through the book. This was the real vermilion power technique. He tried to comprehend it as he flipped through it. When he finished flipping through it, he could already determine that this secret manual was the real vermilion power technique. Since then, he had gathered all 4 spirit beast heart techniques. Although 2 of them were incomplete, he could see the light. He was only a small step away from truly cultivating them and becoming an enlightened master. Chapter 3591. Chu Li carefully kept the vermilion bird power technique and smiled. I'm very satisfied with this gift. Thank you, Fa Yuan. Fa Yuan shook his head. Brother Chu deserves it. You don't have to thank me. If it wasn't for your help, I wouldn't be where I am today. How's your progress? Did you find the other heart techniques? Chu Li frowned. I found the tiger taming technique. The other 2 are incomplete, including the dragon taming technique from Goddess Attraction Mountain. He trusted Fa Yuan very much. He was kind-hearted and would not lie to anyone. Fa Yuan asked, Brother Chu, you've obtained the black tortoise power? Chu Li nodded. Fa Yuan smiled. I thought Brother Chu would ask for it with great fanfare. I didn't expect you to get it so quietly. It's a coincidence. I was lucky. Chu Li smiled. If it wasn't for the vitality-devouring turtle, he would have to force himself to get the black tortoise power. Black Tortoise Mountain teaches 1 level at a time. After mastering it, it's passed down to the next level. Brother Chu is not an outsider, Fa Yuan said. Chu Li looked at the middle-aged monk with a smile. Xing Yin hesitated before nodding. 1 heart of Azura is missing. Fa Yuan was shocked. Missing 1? Did someone invade the demon suppression tower? Did a celestial do it? As he spoke, his face darkened. The enlightened god field spread out naturally. Monk Xing Yin's face paled, and he stepped back. Fa Yuan was shocked. He quickly retracted his enlightened god field and frowned. Why? Xing Yin sighed in relief. Strange. It disappeared without a trace. There was no sign of invasion. It was fine last night. We looked at it at night, but in the morning, 1 was missing. Chu Li's expression changed too. The heart of Azura was not a trivial item. 1 heart of Azura could resurrect an Azura. It was immortal and bloodthirsty. Who knew how many people it would kill? Fa Yuan asked. Who was guarding last night? Honorable Master Kong Wu and Honorable Master Kong Chung. Xing Yin sighed. Fa Yuan frowned in silence. He was confident in the 2 honorable masters' martial arts and character. They would not have done it privately. It was impossible for them to have invaded without a sound. So why did they suddenly disappear? Brother Chu, follow me take a look, Fa Yuan said. Chu Li nodded. It's good to watch. The 3 of them left the monastery, passed through several rows of monasteries, and arrived at a towering pagoda. This pagoda wasn't as tall as the pagoda from before, but in terms of imposing aura, it was superior. It naturally revealed a dignified and open feeling, and it was no different from the concept of Buddhism. Chu Li exclaimed, This demon imprisonment tower lives up to its name. Fa Yuan nodded lightly and said, The Grand Masters in the temple chant the Buddhist scriptures every day to dispel the hostility in the heart of Azura in the pagoda. Unfortunately, the hostility in the heart of Azura is so strong that it is almost impossible to dispel. Chu Li said, It's better than nothing. I hope that the heart of Azura that escaped did not have such a strong, evil energy. Fa Yuan shook his head. What a sin. If the heart of Azura were to escape and kill wantonly in order to grow, it would be the Tempest Temple's fault. They had died because of the Tempest Temple's negligence. Chu Li said, Can we find the heart of Azura? Although the Tempest Temple did not cultivate divine powers, they did not lack divine ability practitioners, especially the high monks who cultivated in literature. After the Buddha's light was perfected, divine powers would naturally appear. However, to the Tempest Temple, these divine powers were obstacles to the other side, and they had to let go. If they could not let go, it would be difficult to achieve perfection. They could not be freed, and it was completely different from the Titanium Temple's cultivation path. Fa Yuan said slowly, "We should be able to find it, but I'm afraid it will be too late by the time we find it." Chu Li said, "Then let's find it as soon as possible." The Honorable Masters and the others should have already started searching, but we still have to find out how it disappeared. Fa Yuan nodded. If we can't find the source, it is inevitable that something like this will happen again. When that time comes, the Honorable Masters will not be able to split themselves, and the world will be in chaos. The Demon Imprisonment Tower suppressed 120 hearts of Azura, including the strongest heart of the Azura King. Chapter 3592. When they arrived in front of the Demon Suppression Tower, a narrow bronze door slowly opened. A skinny old monk with white eyebrows and beard stepped out slowly with his palms pressed together. "Honorable Master Kong Wu," Fa Yuan returned the greeting. "Only one heart of Azura disappeared." The skinny old monk nodded slowly. "Only one." His snow-white eyebrows drooped to the corner of his mouth. His triangular eyes looked a little fierce, but his gaze was calm and clear. He had really reached a state of mind like still water, without any ripples. Even when such a big event happened, he was still calm and collected. "How did it disappear?" Fa Yuan asked. "Did you find out?" "I don't know." The skinny old monk shook his head slowly. "It shouldn't be because of the Demon Suppression Tower. It can't be that heart of Azura King, right?" Fa Yuan asked. Kong Wu said, "It's a heart of Azura from 100 years ago. I thought it had been washed away by the teachings of Buddhism and regained its Buddhist nature. I didn't expect it to suddenly disappear, as if it disappeared into thin air in this world." "Can't find it?" Fa Yuan's expression changed slightly. Kong Wu shook his head slowly. "Brother Kong Chung has already tried, but he can't find it." "How can this be?" Fa Yuan frowned. Kong Wu shook his head without saying anything, obviously not knowing the reason. "Then let's go in and take a look," Fa Yuan said. Kong Wu glanced at Chu Li. Fa Yuan said, "Brother Chu is not an outsider. He can also help." "Since Fa Yuan said so, then please go in." Kong Wu bowed to Chu Li with his palms pressed together. Chu Li pressed his palms together to return the greeting and followed him inside. Fa Yuan entered the Demon Suppression Tower last and closed the bronze door. The inside of the tower was completely different from what Chu Li had imagined. His omniscient mirror could not observe the situation here because there was an invisible force blocking it. When he stepped into the tower, he found it bright. Sunlight shone through the top of the Demon Suppression Tower, but it was brighter than outside. The walls of the tower were engraved with Buddhist scriptures and statues. The atmosphere of Buddhism was thick, and it was full of righteousness. It could really purge evil, and the name of Demon Suppression Tower was true. He also found that there was not a trace of spiritual energy in the tower, just like in his Juyuan Valley. At this moment, there was a young monk sitting cross-legged on a meditation cushion, and he didn't move at all as if he was meditating. This young monk seemed to be around the same age as Fa Yuan. He had a square face, thick eyebrows, and big eyes. Although he was not considered handsome, he was not ugly either. His skin was smooth and delicate, and his eyebrows were so black that they shone. His whole body was shrouded in an exuberant, heroic spirit, which was similar to Chu Li. In addition to the Buddhist statues and Buddhist scriptures on the walls of the pagoda, there were also small holes in which hearts of Azura were fixed. At first glance, it was a little frightening. If these Azuras were to really come back to life, the Yao Ceiling Pagoda would definitely not be able to suppress them. Honorable Master Kong Chung. Fa Yuan bowed with pressed palms. "Did you find anything?" The young monk slowly opened his eyes, and his gaze was clear and calm. He shook his head lightly and said, "No. I've searched everywhere, but found nothing. It seems as if I've been enlightened and ascended." Chu Li looked at the young monk. His whole body was shrouded in a layer of brilliance, but it was not the white light of a celestial being, but a kind of golden light. Obviously, his Buddhist cultivation had reached a very deep level, almost reaching the Arhat realm. The depth of Buddhist cultivation was really rare. The young monk looked at Chu Li and bowed with pressed palms. Are you almsgiver Chu Li? Chu Li bowed with pressed palms. Chu Li greets great Master Kong Chung. Even if he met Monk Ming, he would not be so respectful, but towards Kong Chung, he was respectful from the bottom of his heart. This was the true virtue of a high monk. Great Master Kong Chung shook his head. Almsgiver Chu, you've come at the right time. Did you find anything? Chu Li looked up at the sky and pointed. It should have risen. Fa Yuan looked at him in surprise. Chu Li said, I can feel a trace of Grandmaster's aura. It's obvious that Grandmaster has taken action to guide it over. This pagoda bans all spiritual energy, Kong Wu said. Chu Li nodded. It can ban the spiritual energy of this world, but it can't ban the spiritual energy of Grandmaster. This was the same situation as Juyuan Valley. He suddenly thought that the existence of Juyuan Valley might be related to this Yao Ceiling Pagoda. Unfortunately, too much time had passed, and it was impossible to find out. There was also no need to find out. He turned his head to look at Fa Yuan and smiled. Fa Yuan, you should be able to feel it, right? After listening to Chu Li's words, Fa Yuan fell into deep thought. When he entered the pagoda earlier, he also felt a familiar feeling, but he did not pay much attention to it. He thought that it was familiar because he had been here before. Now that Chu Li pointed it out, he immediately understood. It was the aura of Grandmaster. Fa Yuan was puzzled. Why would Grandmaster Azura be guided? Chu Li shook his head. Who knows about Grandmaster Azura? Everyone keeps it a secret and doesn't dare to talk about it. Azura, Fa Yuan said, could it be that the descent of these Skylanders has something to do with Azura? Kong Chung said, Azura is indestructible. They are not considered strong in this world, but they will be stronger in Grandmaster Azura. According to what I know, Azura comes from the Azura realm, and they are best at fighting. Fa Yuan furrowed his brows. Then, this Azura won't come back, right? Kong Chung said, if they enter Grandmaster Azura, they will not return. To Azura, this whirling world is like a prison. That's good, as long as they don't appear in this world. Fa Yuan nodded. Chu Li pondered. Master Kong Chung, is there really no way to destroy Azura? According to what I know, this world cannot destroy Azura. Kong Chung shook his head. Chu Li sighed. If that's the case, we can only suppress them. That's right. Kong Chung nodded. Fa Yuan said, since they came to our demon prison tower to receive the heart of Azura, I wonder if, he frowned slightly, extremely dissatisfied with the Skylanders. Even with a peaceful and kind heart, he could not help but have a murderous intent. I want to put nephew Liao Ming's remains into the tower. Kong Chung said. This? Fa Yuan hesitated. The enlightened master's remains had to be put into a specialized pagoda to protect everyone in the temple. The enlightened master dojo formed could prevent grandmasters from ascending to Grandmaster Azura. They could continue to live in the enlightened master dojo as if they were in the temple. Kong Chung said, if nephew Liao Ming knows about this, he will not object. All right, we'll listen to Honorable Master Kong Chung. Fa Yuan slowly nodded. Kong Chung said, with the enlightened master's remains, we can hide from Grandmaster Azura's prying eyes. They will not be able to see the demon prison tower. Chu Li smiled. The enlightened master's remains did have the ability to hide the secrets of heaven. There was an enlightened master in the Ji Dynasty Imperial Mausoleum, because the enlightened master's remains could hide the secrets of heaven. Grandmaster Azura only recognized two kinds of enlightened masters. One was to become an enlightened master, and the other was to cultivate the heart technique of the four spirit beasts to become an enlightened master. The others were not enlightened masters and would be destroyed by lightning, just like Song Jifan. Fa Yuan and Chu Li left the demon prison tower and arrived outside the Tempest Temple. Fa Yuan bowed with pressed palms. Brother Chu, why are you frowning? Chu Li laughed. I'm worried about something. What is it? The descent of the Skylanders has already caused chaos. If Azura from Grandmaster Azura descends, what will happen? Chu Li asked. Fa Yuan frowned and said slowly, it won't be that bad, right? Chu Li shook his head. Always think of the worst. If the Skylanders can descend, why can't Azura? I will continue to investigate the heart of Azura, Fa Yuan said. Chapter 3593. Under the bright sun, Chu Li stood at the top of the mountain with his hands behind his back. His white robe fluttered in the wind. He looked down at the mountains. The mountains were verdant and verdant, overflowing with greenery. What a beautiful mountain, great rivers and mountains. If they truly became the battlefield of Celestials and Azuras, then the people would definitely suffer greatly. The situation unspeakably tragic. He couldn't allow that to happen. But if it happened, what could he do to stop it? He could kill one celestial being, but could he kill all 10 celestial beings? Moreover, the Azuras were the most difficult to deal with. The Azuras under his control had always behaved themselves and cultivated in the Divine Mountain. These Azuras were not a concern, but the Azuras that descended from the Outland were a concern. It was just like how Grandmasters were nothing in this realm. Once they stepped into the Outland and became a celestial being, they would then descend and become an existence on par with enlightened masters. One could only imagine how tyrannical the Azuras that descended from the Outland would be. Thinking about this, he became more anxious. He wanted to get the heaven-murdering script and enter the 100,000 Hills. It would be best if he could find the vermilion bird to help him cultivate. If that didn't work, he could use the old trick of Goddess Attraction Mountain and cultivate the vermilion bird himself. Unfortunately, it would take a long time. Song Jifan, come out and meet me. He suddenly looked up to the sky and let out a long roar that resounded through the sky. After a while, there was no movement. Chu Li frowned and said, "Is the leader of the Changshan denomination a coward? You don't dare to show yourself?" His voice was like a bronze bell, echoing in the sky and in the valley for a long time. But after a while, there was still no movement. Chu Li laughed and said, "Leader Song, are you afraid? Don't worry, I won't kill you. I just want to ask you a few questions and spar with you. If you don't show yourself, I'll have to start with the disciples of the floating mountain." His voice was calm and unhurried, echoing endlessly in the valley. After a while, there was still no movement. Chu Li frowned, feeling that something was wrong. Based on what he knew, Song Jifan didn't have this much patience. He wasn't that experienced and ran out to fight him. Even if he couldn't win, he wouldn't retreat. Song Jifan allowed his martial arts to be weaker than his opponent, but he wouldn't allow himself to be timid. Chu Li took a deep breath and activated the omniscient mirror to the extreme. The floating mountain was hidden in the formation, so it was hard for the omniscient mirror to detect it. But the omniscient mirror was different from before. Even if it couldn't detect it, it could faintly sense its existence. But the sky was empty. There was nothing. There was no strange object or the floating mountain. Chu Li's face changed as he thought of a possibility. The floating mountain had left. The so-called floating mountain naturally didn't just float in the sky. It could also move in the sky like a boat on the sea. Chu Li shook his head. Such a miraculous floating mountain was really enviable. With such a floating mountain, there was no need to worry that others would come knocking on their doors. There was simply no place to look for it. His face darkened. With a sudden flash, he appeared at the Jingyan Mountain. Unfortunately, the valley of the Jingyan Mountain was already empty, and everything had disappeared. It was as if they had never been here. Xing of Mountain of the two of the Yu the King. Feng the he and the Li the same he and the Lu Jun and Elder Fong were gone. He didn't want to give up. He used the Heaven Insight technique to deduce their location. Unfortunately, there was an invisible force that was obstructing his deduction. He could vaguely sense their existence, but he couldn't actually sense them. He couldn't pinpoint their location, and he could only know that they were still alive. Chu Li frowned. The force could be from a treasure or from the Outland. Was it Song Wuji? Chu Li's heart skipped a beat. He thought that he might not be a match for Song Wuji now. If Song Wuji really came personally, he would most likely be defeated, and he might even lose his life. He couldn't help but fear this. But he had to get the heaven slaughtering technique. Otherwise, it would be hard to deal with the spirit tiger. He couldn't enter the 100,000 Hills. He couldn't just grind the vermilion power for decades and become an enlightened master. He searched the sky for a while, but didn't find anything. He disappeared and reappeared in the imperial residence of King Yin. The imperial residence was quiet. Without Shao Qi and Shao Shi, the entire imperial residence was quiet. Chu Li appeared in the backyard. Hui Qing was enjoying the blooming flowers in the pagoda. She was dressed in a loose Taoist robe, which made her face look bright and flawless, as if there was no dirt on it. When she saw Chu Li, she glanced at him and continued to enjoy the flowers. She didn't want to talk to him. Chu Li came to the pagoda and sat opposite her. "Master, I have something to ask." "Speak," Hui Qing said. Chu Li said, "I want to find a floating mountain." "The floating mountain? Song Wuji's floating mountain?" Hui Qing glanced at him. Chu Li nodded. "Yes." Hui Qing said, "I've never met Song Wuji. I don't know where the floating mountain is." Chu Li stared at her. "Master, can you help me find the floating mountain? Why are you looking for the floating mountain?" Hui Qing asked. Chu Li said, "I want the heaven slaughtering technique." "The heaven slaughtering technique?" Hui Qing frowned at Chu Li. "Why are you cultivating that?" "To deal with supreme spirit beasts." Chu Li said calmly. "You're crazy." Hui Qing shook her head. Chu Li looked at her quietly. Hui Qing said, "Even if you cultivate the heaven slaughtering technique, you won't be able to deal with supreme spirit beasts. Moreover, the heaven slaughtering technique isn't anything good. It's almost like a demonic technique that consumes one's lifespan." Chu Li seemed to have understood something. No wonder it was so powerful. He realized that secret skills that consumed lifespan were usually very powerful. Hui Qing said, "Every time you use the heaven slaughtering technique, you'll lose at least 10 years of lifespan. How long do you have to dare use it?" "It's better than dying immediately," Chu Li said. "Even if you cultivate the heaven slaughtering technique, you won't be able to defeat supreme spirit beasts." Hui Qing said, "With your current cultivation level, it's wishful thinking to fight against supreme spirit beasts. For the sake of your life and Shao Qi's, it's better to give up." "Master, you can't deal with supreme spirit beasts?" Chu Li asked. Hui Qing shook her head. "No," Chu Li sighed. "It seems like supreme spirit beasts are invincible. If you can cultivate to the great enlightened master's boundary, you can fight against supreme spirit beasts. However, that's in the Grand Master's boundary. There's no great enlightened master in this world. You're not even an enlightened master yet, let alone a great enlightened master." Chu Li's spirit was lifted. He finally had a direction to strive for. If he could not reach supreme spirit beast boundary, no matter how hard he cultivated, it would be too hopeless. Hui Qing sneered and shook her head. The great enlightened master was simply wishful thinking. It was difficult to become an enlightened master and almost impossible to become one. It was just a wishful thinking of the enlightened masters. How many years had it been since a great enlightened master appeared? Song Wuji and the others were only close to it. The chances of becoming a great enlightened master was less than 1 in a million. It was better to pursue one's own path than to pursue the great enlightened master. One could achieve the Tai Ching path and live as long as the heavens. That was the true freedom. "Master, you can't find the floating mountain?" Chu Li stood up. "Forget it then. I'll go to Master for help. I'm sure Master will be able to find it." "You want to kill Song Jifan?" Hui Qing asked. Chu Li shook his head. "I won't kill him. I just want to force the heaven slaughtering technique out of him." Chapter 3594. Hui Qing scoffed. "You don't dare to kill him, right?" Chu Li nodded. "Yes, I'm afraid of Song Wuji, so I don't dare to kill Song Jifan." "Don't you think you're bullying the weak and afraid of the strong?" Hui Qing looked at his face with interest, trying to see his subtle expressions. Chu Li laughed. "It's human nature to bully the weak and fear the strong. I'm no exception. If I really provoke Song Wuji, there will be endless trouble, so I can't kill Song Jifan." "Very good. Your comprehension is really good. No wonder you've achieved so much." Hui Qing nodded in satisfaction. It was human nature to bully the weak and fear the strong, but people often could not accept themselves like this. They did not dare to admit it and did not want to become such a person, so they kept running away and deceiving themselves. Those who could face themselves honestly would have a firm and fearless heart. This was the foundation of cultivation. It was difficult to achieve anything if one could not let go of the ideas and restrictions imposed by the outside world. If you don't kill Song Jifan, how can you ask for the heaven-murdering tactic? Song Wuji must have tampered with the heaven-murdering tactic. Even if Song Jifan cultivated it, it would be difficult to tell others. Even the Buddhist's eye of insight can't sense it. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Hui Qing's words blocked his way. His omniscient mirror was similar to the Buddhist's eye of insight. Although it was stronger, it was still classified as a divine power. If he could resist the Buddhist's eye of insight, he could also resist the omniscient mirror's prying. Could it be that the world is so big, but there's no way to get the heaven-murdering tactic? Chu Li frowned. There must be another way. Another way? Hui Qing thought for a while. Won't be easier than this. Then can you find the floating mountain? Chu Li asked. I can't. Hui Qing shook her head. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. If that's the case, thank you. I'll think of another way. But, Hui Qing said, the heaven-murdering tactic was not created by Song Wuji. Chu Li was excited. Hui Qing said, it's not even the Longevity Church's martial art. The Longevity Church's martial art is the ageless longevity technique. It's an evil and domineering martial art that can complement the heaven-murdering tactic. Chu Li nodded slowly. The heaven-killing incantation consumed one's lifespan, while the unaging live forever ability increased one's lifespan. The two complemented each other to make up for the flaws of the heaven-killing incantation, while the unaging live forever technique made up for the flaws of the heaven-killing incantation and could be considered to have greater power. However, the art of ageless longevity increased one's lifespan by devouring others. Just the thought of it sent chills down Chu Li's spine. Chu Li felt uncomfortable all over. He would never use the art of ageless longevity on others. Hui Qing said, the murdering heaven art was originally a martial art of the Absolute Heaven sect. Absolute Heaven sect. Chu Li thought about it and shook his head. He had seen the ancient books in the 100,000 Spirit Mountains, but there were no records of the Absolute Heaven sect. It seemed that there was no such sect. Never heard of it. Hui Qing asked. Chu Li nodded. Actually, he has another name. Heavenly Demon Sect, Hui Qing said. Chu Li was stunned. Heavenly Demonic Sect? I think the Heavenly Demon Sect is still around, right? He had never expected it to be the Heavenly Demon Sect. He was still the sect leader of the Heavenly Demonic Sect, and his heavenly demonic power was almost perfected. However, he had never seen the murdering heaven art in the sect. Then, he remembered that he was not interested in the secret books of the Heavenly Demonic Sect back then. He only skimmed through them briefly before leaving. After that, he rarely returned to the Heavenly Demonic Sect and only gathered information through the disciples of the Heavenly Demonic Sect. The current Heavenly Demonic Sect is not the same sect as the original Heavenly Demonic Sect. Hui Qing scoffed. I know about the one you mentioned. There has never been an enlightened master. This is unimaginable in the Absolute Heaven sect. Chu Li asked, it's not the same sect. The current Heavenly Demonic Sect can only be considered a branch of the ancient Heavenly Demonic Sect. Hui Qing shook her head. I'm about to take a look. It's not a big deal. It's getting worse with each generation. It's doomed. Chu Li slowly said, how do I find the Absolute Heaven sect? We can only think of a way from the Heavenly Demonic Sect now. Hui Qing answered, there should be some clues left behind. With your ability, it won't be difficult to find them. As for whether you can find the successor of the ancient Heavenly Demonic Sect, it'll depend on your luck. According to my speculation, the inheritance should still be there. Thank you, Master. Chu Li bowed deeply. Hui Qing said, you don't have to thank me. If it weren't for Shao Qi, I wouldn't care about your life or death. Chu Li smiled and nodded. He did not think that Hui Qing had a sharp tongue, but a soft heart. She was cold and indifferent. She did not care about others and could not even be bothered with them. She felt that everyone had their own path and that they could decide their own life or death. Others should not interfere. If it were not for Shao Qi, she would not even care about him. Speaking of which, it was all thanks to Shao Qi. Chu Li secretly laughed. Chu Li returned to the heavenly demonic sect. However, there were no clues in the heavenly demonic sect. He flipped through all the ancient records and talked to a few elders of the heavenly demonic sect. They all had blank expressions on their faces. They didn't know about the existence of the heaven-severing sect. They had never heard of it before. Chu Li was disappointed, but there was nothing he could do. He could not force them to say anything if they did not know. It seemed like Hui Qing was not very clear about it, and only gave a rough idea. The next moment, he appeared outside the stargazing pavilion. It was noon when he stood at the foot of the stargazing peak. The bright sun shone warmly on his body. He stood with his hands behind his back as his white robe fluttered. A moment later, Li Xinghe, who wore a blue tunic and had a jade-like face, slowly appeared in front of him. He gave a fist salute and smiled bitterly. "Why are you here?" "I was passing by, so I dropped by to take a look." Chu Li looked at him with a faint smile. Li Xinghe quickly said, "I've already done what you told me to do. Unfortunately, there's too much resistance, so I can only push it forward through rumors. It's finally effective. The enlightened masters are against Song Ji Fan." Chu Li nodded. "Not bad. Can you find the floating mountain? I've been keeping an eye on it." Li Xinghe smiled. They left their original spot this time and moved thousands of miles away. It's terrifying just thinking about it. "You know where they are?" Chu Li was surprised. Li Xinghe slowly said, "They're on the sea." Chu Li nodded. "That's very safe. Are they not going to come ashore?" "They're hiding for a while." Li Xinghe said, "Song Ji Fan is probably cultivating some antique study again. Once he masters it, he won't be afraid of you anymore, and the floating mountain will naturally return." Chu Li said, "Tell me, where are they? I'll bring you there personally." Li Xinghe said, "Otherwise, it'll be hard to explain." Chu Li nodded. Li Xinghe glided forward and said as he walked, "Does it feel good to kill celestials?" Chu Li broke into laughter. Li Xinghe said, "But it's better not to kill celestials." Chu Li sighed. "Many people have advised me not to kill celestials, but I can't help it. Do you know why so many celestials have come down? It should be related to Azura." Li Xinghe looked up at the sky and lowered his voice. "They might have fought against Azura." Chu Li frowned. "Celestials can't defeat Azura." Chapter 3595. Chu Li nodded slowly. He had guessed this as well. A war had broken out in the Outland, so the Grandmasters were required to ascend and become celestial beings to participate in the war. These Grandmasters were then used as cannon fodder. He did not believe that these celestial beings came down with good intentions. Good things would not happen to the people of this world. Li Xinghe said, "Based on what I know, there are many regions in the Outland. Just like our countries, Azuras occupy a region known as the Azura realm. They are bloodthirsty and immortal, which is a huge threat to the other celestial beings." Chu Li asked, "Why did Azura suddenly declare war? Perhaps there's some conflict or a conflict of interest." Li Xinghe frowned and said, "Wars often happen very abruptly and catch people off guard. The reasons are often bizarre and unimaginable. However, I can conclude that they are fighting with Azura, and the situation is not optimistic. After all, celestials can still perish and be reincarnated, but Azura are indestructible. Is there really no way to kill Azura?" Chu Li frowned. "There's no such thing as an invincible person in this world. There must be something that can restrain them. If there was yin, there must be yang, and if there was life, there must be death. This was the rule of heaven and earth. No matter how strong Azura was, there must be a way to kill it." Chu Li firmly believed this, but he had not been able to find it. Li Xinghe shook his head. "Nobody knows. The celestial beings have been looking for it, but unfortunately," he sighed. "Brother Chu, don't waste your effort. As long as you kill them and suppress the heart of Azura, you can delay their resurrection." "How long can it be suppressed?" Chu Li asked. 100 years. Li Xinghe said, "From what I know, even the most powerful force can only suppress the heart of Azura for 100 years. Once the time is up, Azura will naturally reincarnate into the Outland." Chu Li pondered. He suddenly understood why the Tempest Temple's heart of Azura went missing and ascended to the Outland. It turned out that it had reached the limit of its suppression and was about to ascend to the Outland to reincarnate into the Azura realm. Both of them chatted as they traveled. Li Xinghe could travel several miles with a single step. Chu Li also shifted the void to follow him. Both of them arrived at an ocean after 2 hours. Li Xinghe said, "We'll find the floating mountain after 100 miles to the south." Chu Li asked, "How did you find them?" "Naturally. We have our sect's unique power, divination." Li Xinghe smiled and said, "The disciples of the Changshan sect are powerful, but not all of them are. As long as we can find one, we can keep an eye on the floating mountain." Chu Li frowned at him. He had also tried to deduce the existence of the floating mountain, but it had been blocked by an invisible force. Why didn't Li Xinghe deduce it? He narrowed his eyes at Li Xinghe. "Extrapolate? Don't tell me you're just brushing me off?" "What do you mean?" Li Xinghe was stunned. Chu Li suddenly burst into laughter. "It's impossible to deduce their location. There's a force protecting them. It's not that I'm looking down on Stargazing Pavilion, but you won't be able to break through this force with your abilities." "Sigh, all right." Li Xinghe smiled wryly and said, "I can't hide it from you anymore. Our disciples are on the floating mountain." "Impressive." Chu Li could not help but laugh. "You actually managed to place a chess piece on the floating mountain. It's not our own ability, it's the previous sect leader's doing." Li Xinghe shook his head and sighed. "We're really getting worse with each generation. We're still far behind our ancestors. Brotherly, you might have a chance to surpass them," Chu Li said. Li Xinghe shook his head. "I still have this bit of self-awareness. I don't have the heart to advance courageously. I'm just an ordinary person who won't amount to much." Chu Li said, "Your current achievements aren't any worse than the previous sect leader, right?" "I'm still lacking a little," Li Xinghe replied. The two of them stopped at the seaside and did not continue forward. Chu Li knew the reason without asking. It was because the only thing needed to determine one's position on the sea was the stars. It was still daytime, so it was difficult to see the stars. They had to sense it carefully, which was quite exhausting. Hence, it was better to wait until nighttime. They sat on a reef by the seaside and cultivated for a while. When night fell completely, the moon rose, and the sky was filled with twinkling stars. They got up and set foot on the sea. Under the moonlight, the sea was boundless. At first glance, it looked like a vast thicket of grass. However, when the surface of the sea swayed slightly, it displayed a tyrannical force that could move one's soul. It was enough to make one flinch. The two of them stepped on the surface of the sea as if it was flat ground. They walked forward step by step, still using the ground shrinking technique. In the blink of an eye, they were almost 100 miles away. Li Xinghe looked up at the sky and counted with his fingers before nodding. "We're up there." Chu Li said, "Go back first. Don't let them know." Li Xinghe nodded slowly. "Then be careful. The Longevity Church isn't as simple as it seems. There are powerful people hiding, not just Song Jifan." Chu Li smiled. "It couldn't be better." As he spoke, he let out a long howl that traveled a few miles along the surface of the sea. "Song Jifan, show yourself." Li Xinghe was on his way back when he heard the howl. He shook his head helplessly. Was this not letting Song Jifan know in advance and be prepared? He might even escape in advance. He really did not know what he was thinking. Chu Li let out another long howl. "If you don't show yourself, don't blame me for throwing away the heaven-killing sword. I'll throw the heaven-killing sword into one of the valleys in the 100,000 hills. No one will be able to find it. Don't even think about getting the heaven-killing sword in this lifetime." Chu Li's voice was like rolling thunder that lingered in the night sky for a long time. Chu Li shouted again, "The heaven-killing sword is here. Song Jifan, do you have the guts to come and take it? Don't you want the heaven-killing sword? It's right in front of you, yet you don't dare to come and take it. You should just obediently retreat to the floating mountain and be your bishop. Don't think about the Longevity Church dominating the world." Chu Li burst out laughing. "Haha, what grand ambition. What a joke." Suddenly, a loud yell came from the laughter. "Chu Li, don't be arrogant. Chu Li stopped laughing and looked at Song Ji-fan, who appeared out of nowhere. He nodded in satisfaction. You finally stuck your head out. How rare. Did the floating mountain come here to avoid me? Avoid you? Song Ji-fan wore a green robe and a golden crown. Under the moonlight, he looked like a deity. He stepped in the void and sneered. You don't have the qualifications to make our floating mountain hide. Chu Li laughed. Then why hide here? To avoid the celestials. Song Ji-fan said lightly. You know how annoying these celestials are. Chu Li said, celestials are indeed annoying. You still want the heaven-killing sword? Song Ji-fan scoffed. You've thought it through and want to give me the heaven-killing sword? Chu Li said, let's have a spar. If you can win, the heaven-killing sword is yours. If you can't, the heaven-killing art is mine. All right, Song Ji-fan happily agreed. I'll tell you in advance. Even if you get the heaven-killing art, you won't be able to cultivate it. Don't blame me for not telling you in advance. Chu Li smiled. Why can't I cultivate it? Without the ageless longevity technique, you'll be dead before you can cultivate it. Song Ji-fan scoffed. Chapter 3596. Chu Li frowned. The ageless longevity technique. Our faction's divine technique. Song Ji-fan said proudly, you won't have the chance to cultivate it, so you should give up on the heaven-murdering tactic. This is my good intention. Chu Li smiled. Then add the ageless longevity technique and the heaven-murdering tactic together. If you lose, you have to pass the technique and the heaven-murdering tactic to me. What a joke. Song Ji-fan sneered. You have a good plan. Chu Li said, if not, we don't have to bet. What? Are you going to go back on your word? Song Ji-fan scoffed with a cold face. Chu Li, do you really think you can escape? Chu Li turned his head to look. Four young men appeared out of thin air. Their aura was thick like the mountains and the sea. They seemed to be one with the sea under their feet. Their breathing was the same, and they absorbed the power of the sea. This made Chu Li curious about the martial arts they cultivated. Song Ji-fan sneered. Chu Li, you can only blame yourself for being too arrogant. We already hid here, and you still chased after us. You're courting death. There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. There's no door to hell, but you insist on squeezing in. Chu Li frowned. Who are they? He could feel that the four young men's aura was strange, and their cultivation level was high. More importantly, their temperament was vicissitudes. Their eyes were calm and relaxed, weary, as if they were old men who had lived for a long time and could face death calmly. They did not have that kind of attachment to life. There's no harm in telling you. Song Ji-fan shook his head with a faint smile on his face. These four are the sect protectors. Each of their cultivation levels is higher than yours. Chu Li frowned. For revered guardians? What kind of antique study do they cultivate? He was most curious about this one. They could become one with the sea, as if the sea was them, and they were the sea. Hurting them was hurting the sea. If the sea was not hurt, they would not be hurt either. This feeling was very strange, but he thought it was real. He had to treat it seriously. The boundless ocean technique. Song Ji-fan said proudly. It's one of the unique skills of the Changshan denomination. It's one level higher than the bloody garment divine skill and the invincible heavenly king art. Since you're lucky enough to see it, you can die without regret. Chu Li muttered, the boundless ocean power. He recalled the records in the ancient books in the cave of the 100,000 mountains. The boundless ocean divine art was a mystical art that could only be cultivated by observing the sea and living on the sea day and night. Only by fusing one's body and mind with the sea and thoroughly comprehending the soul of the sea could one cultivate it. After mastering the boundless ocean divine technique, as long as there was an ocean, there would be no need to worry about injuries or insufficient inner energy. The ocean was soft yet hard. The softness could neutralize injuries, while the hardness could destroy everything. Practitioners of the boundless ocean divine technique had endless inner energy and energy in the sea. They would not feel tired or exhausted, just like the god of the sea. It was truly terrifying. However, although this technique was extremely powerful, it was also extremely difficult to cultivate. However, Once it was successfully cultivated, it would be like the ageless live forever technique, and one's lifespan would be extended. Song Jifan scoffed. Have you heard of it? Chu Li nodded and said, So, it's the boundless ocean power. I'm really impressed. It wasn't easy to cultivate the boundless ocean divine technique, and those who managed to do so were people worthy of respect. Song Jifan said, If you obediently hand over the sky killer sword, I can spare your life. If you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for being merciless. Chu Li smiled and said, Leader Song, you'll really spare my life? Why not? Song Jifan said proudly, I'll cripple your martial arts, and you'll no longer be a threat to my faction. What's the harm in sparing your life? Have you decided now? Are you going to hand it over or not? Chu Li smiled and said, Let's continue with the bet. Same as before. If you win, I'll give you the sky killer technique. If you lose, give me the sky killer sword. Song Jifan scoffed. Forget about the ageless live forever technique. I won't pass it to you. Sigh. Chu Li shook his head and said, If that's the case, I can only agree to it. Let's go with this, but with these four here, are they trying to go back on their words? What if you lose and still snatch my sword? Of course not, Song Jifan scoffed. What kind of person do you think I am? Chu Li smiled. If that's the case, make your move. Song Jifan's expression was solemn. The moon in the sky suddenly shot out a ray of light and landed on him. His jade-like face glowed, and his whole body was shrouded in the light. He slowly pulled out the long sword from his waist. The moon shot out another ray of moonlight and landed on the blade of the sword. The blade of the sword glowed. It looked like he was a celestial being. Both he and the sword glowed and absorbed the essence of the moon. The vast power was like a surging tide. It was like a raging wave that pressed down on him, wanting to crush him directly. Chu Li's white robe fluttered loudly as if he was standing in a strong wind. He did not expect Song Jifan's advancement to be so great. It was twice as fast as before. The speed of his cultivation level advancement was beyond imagination. If it was not for the spirit tiger's energy, he really would not have the power to resist. This advancement was too shocking. If this went on, he did not know if he could still withstand it. It was no wonder he was so arrogant. The power of the sky killer technique was indeed extraordinary. Swoosh! The light of the sword shot out. It ignored the existence of distance and instantly appeared in front of Chu Li. Chu Li lightly struck out with his palm. The light of the sword fell on his palm like a snake. The light twisted and struggled, but it could not escape from his palm. It slowly became weaker and weaker until it dissipated. Not a single bit was able to penetrate his palm. After cultivating the black tortoise power, the power of the indestructible body of titanium was even more tyrannical. The sword energy of the sky killer technique could no longer penetrate the indestructible body of titanium. Song Jifan's expression changed slightly. The light was hidden and others could not see it. He was shocked. He did not expect this to be the result. His strongest sword energy could not do anything to Chu Li. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Several light of the sword fell on Chu Li. Chu Li waved his palms as if he was catching butterflies. He easily caught each light of the sword and smashed them one by one. The light of the sword was extremely fast. It did not give anyone a chance to react. However, Chu Li was able to catch them one by one. The speed of his palm technique shocked Song Jifan. Chief Song only has this kind of ability? Chu Li shook his head and sighed in disappointment. Then I'd better admit defeat. Umph. Song Jifan sneered. The light on his body suddenly flourished. The light of the sword also became brighter. In the end, it became as dazzling as the sun. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 light of the sword instantly hit Chu Li. This time, Chu Li could not catch the light of the sword. 2 fell on his heart, and 1 fell in front of his eyes. Chu Li stretched out his palms to cover his eyes. He did not manage to catch the remaining 2. When the 2 light of the sword hit the center of his heart, they suddenly merged into 1 light and pierced Chu Li's chest. Bam! Chu Li took a step back. Again, Song Jifan laughed. This sword was enough to make Chu Li suffer. No matter how strong he was he still fell into his trap. His body burst with a dazzling light. The same was true for his sword. It was as if a sun had appeared in the sky. It lit up the surroundings like it was daytime. The light reflected from the sea made it hard for people to open their eyes. The four young men stood silently on the sea as if they were standing on flat ground. They looked at Chu Li motionlessly. They stared at Chu Li's every move and every move, looking for an opportunity to attack. Chapter 35:97. The heaven-murdering scripture's sword aura hit his chest, and he felt a sudden pain. The sword aura was like two snakes drilling into his heart. Chu Li was shocked. He didn't expect the two sword auras to be so sharp. The sword aura that he blocked with his hand was obviously not strong enough. It was to distract him. The remaining two sword auras were his trump cards. They were so powerful that they broke through the indestructible body of titanium and went straight into his heart. The vermilion bird's fire in his heart was startled. It suddenly came out and swallowed the two sword auras. The vermilion bird's fire suddenly rose like a raging flame. The indestructible body of titanium's inner energy couldn't suppress it. Song Jifan saw that Chu Li's face didn't change and didn't show any signs of injury. He was a little angry. He didn't expect Chu Li to have reached such a realm. He was really his nemesis. He must kill him. Eat another one, my sword. The light on Song Jifan's body became even brighter. The sword aura shot out and ignored Chu Li's hand. It hit his heart again. Bang! Chu Li took another step back. Chu Li frowned. His heart hurt again as it was swallowed by the vermilion bird's fire again. Song Jifan's face began to age. He was already a middle-aged man. Chu Li knew that he used a secret skill to increase the power of the heaven-murdering scripture. If this continued, the power would become stronger and stronger. Chu Li wouldn't be able to withstand it. Eat one of my palm, Chu Li said calmly and hit him with his palm. Song Jifan couldn't avoid it and hit him squarely in the chest. Bang! Song Jifan flew straight out as if he was hit by a giant wood. It was as if there was a string pulling him from behind. Song Jifan flew 100 feet in the air and spat out a mouthful of blood. He stared at Chu Li in disbelief. When he activated the heaven-murdering scripture, his body and the treasure sword in his hand became one. The treasure sword was him, and he was the treasure sword. His body became like the treasure sword. It was indestructible and could cut through iron as if it was mud. Chu Li's light palm contained a strange inner energy. It actually hurt him directly. His internal organs felt like they were flipped over, and the energy in his body became chaotic. The spirit tiger's spiritual energy dimmed as if it was sucked dry. Chu Li immediately sent the inner energy of the supreme titanium scripture into it for it to devour. In an instant, it was replenished even more so than before. Chu Li once again used the tiger taming technique and lightly struck out with his palm. The palm flashed and instantly appeared in front of Song Jifan. Song Jifan saw that the situation wasn't good, so he used his lightning manipulation steps to avoid it. He didn't dare to take on the strange palm energy. However, there was an invisible force binding him. Although he immediately broke free, he was delayed for a moment, so he couldn't avoid the palm. The palm collided with his left palm, and he was sent flying again. He spat out another mouthful of blood and snorted angrily. What kind of demonic palm technique is this? It's just an ordinary palm technique. Chu Li smiled. How does it feel? Very good. Song Jifan sneered. Do you think you could defeat me with this damn palm technique? Why not? Chu Li asked. Song Jifan sneered. Naive. Although the palm energy was strange and abnormally overbearing, and his internal organs were already heavily injured, his ageless longevity technique was very mysterious. After a few more wrinkles appeared on his face, his injuries were immediately alleviated. Chu Li stopped and stood still, shaking his head. You can try. The sneer on Song Jifan's face froze. He realized that after the ageless longevity technique suppressed his injuries were alleviated. However, the strange palm energy continued to destroy. In the blink of an eye, His years of effort to save his life disappeared, and his body deteriorated again. Puffed. Song Jifan spat out another mouthful of blood and frowned as he stared at Chu Li. Chu Li smiled. Do you admit defeat? The spiritual energy of Supreme Rank Spirit Beast was not that easy to eliminate. It was as if they had a soul, and they could decide how to attack and which attack was the most effective. Moreover, it was almost impossible to eliminate it. Admit defeat? Song Jifan gritted his teeth. Ridiculous. He suddenly became old, as if he was an old man in his 60s. Even with the light covering him, it still couldn't escape Chu Li's eyes. Chu Li shook his head. It's useless. Oomph. Song Jifan sneered in disdain. His internal injuries suddenly reversed and recovered as if he was not injured at all. Moreover, the strange palm energy had decreased by a lot, leaving only a trace. The smile on his face grew wider. Just as he was about to open his mouth to mock Chu Li, his smile froze again. That trace of palm energy quickly devoured his body's strength, and in the blink of an eye, it grew to its previous level. Then, it heavily injured his internal organs again, and it was even more serious than before. His internal organs were heavily injured, and the strength in his body became chaotic again. The light flickered. His expression changed. If this continued, he really could not suppress the palm energy. Chu Li laughed. Still not admitting defeat? Song Jifan gritted his teeth and scoffed. Chu Li, what martial art is this? Chu Li said, Spirit Tiger Palm. I've never heard of this palm technique. Song Jifan gritted his teeth and scoffed. You win. All right, I admit defeat. Chu Li was stunned. Admit defeat? That's right. Song Jifan gritted his teeth. But you have to withdraw the palm energy. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Of course. Song Jifan extended his hand. Come. Chu Li looked at him, then slowly extended his left palm and placed it on Song Jifan's right palm. As their palms intersected, Chu Li activated the tiger taming technique. Suddenly, a warm force entered Song Jifan's body. Once the spirit tiger's spiritual energy felt this warm force, it immediately withdrew its attack and entered the warm force. It was as if it had entered a hot spring, and then it was swept back into Chu Li's body. Song Jifan let out a long sigh of relief. The light on his face gradually dissipated, revealing his old face. Chu Li smiled. Can you tell me the heaven-murdering scripture now? No problem. Song Jifan scoffed. But I will only say it once. Don't blame me if you can't remember it. Chu Li nodded. He was a little surprised. He did not expect Song Jifan to admit defeat so easily and in such a straightforward manner. He was like a gentleman, and there was no trace of an enemy. This was too unusual, but since things had come to this, Chu Li would not back down. It was good enough that he could obtain the heaven-murdering scripture. The heaven-murdering scripture was too important to him. All of you step down. Don't eavesdrop. Song Jifan turned his head and looked at the four young men. Bishop. The four hesitated. Song Jifan scoffed and turned his head. Let's go somewhere else. Chu Li nodded. The two suddenly disappeared from the vast sea in a flash and appeared at the peak of a mountain. It was the original entrance of the floating mountain. Song Jifan looked at Chu Li with a complicated expression. Chu Li, I will say it again. Learning the heaven-murdering scripture may not be a good thing. Instead, it is a road to death. Chu Li smiled. Thank you for the reminder. I want to practice it. All right then. Song Jifan scoffed. I will not hide it or tamper with it. You can rest assured that I am not that despicable. I will definitely defeat you fair and square. Chu Li smiled. All right, I will wait. Song Jifan scoffed. The heaven-murdering scripture would not be tampered with because the backlash after tampering might not be that big. The original heaven-murdering scripture's backlash would be the fiercest and most powerful. He coughed softly and began to say, the heaven-murdering scripture's opening chapter clearly states that those who kill the heavens, kill the heavens. Song Jifan's words were as clear as pearls, but the speed was extremely fast. It was like raindrops falling down. A torrent of annoyance poured out, hoping that Chu Li would not remember it. Chapter 3598. He was puzzled as he imprinted. According to his original estimation, Song Ji-fan might not be able to remember the heaven-murdering technique. In order to prevent it from being leaked, Song Wuji should have used some means, just like how he sealed it in Song Ji-fan's mind in the past. Outsiders could not touch it. He suddenly understood that Song Wuji's seal was not to guard against outsiders, but to prevent Song Ji-fan from cultivating in advance. Only when he had a sufficient cultivation level would the seal be removed and he could cultivate. If outsiders cultivated this heaven-murdering technique, they would most likely die. He secretly shook his head, but he did not delay imprinting the memory. Song Ji-fan recited the incantation in one breath and stared coldly at Chu Li. "How was it? Did you remember it?" Chu Li said, "Did I get it wrong? I can swear that I didn't get a single word wrong." Song Ji-fan scoffed. Chu Li smiled. "You have to change your vow. You can rest assured that the five thunder heaven-murdering technique will be widely spread." Song Ji-fan scoffed. "I know people's hearts. Who would pass down such a miraculous technique to others? Even their own descendants might not be willing to pass it down, let alone when there's a chance to pass it down." The four elders all laughed. "We can't stay here anymore. Let's change to another place." Song Ji-fan said, "If Chu Li can find this place, it's not impossible for those Devis." "That's right." The four elders nodded. Song Wuji had offended too many people in the Outland. After those Devis descended, they would destroy the Church of Longevity at all costs to cut off Song Wuji's path and attack his influence. Therefore, they left their original position in advance to avoid the Devis. They did not even have time to inform the people outside. Chapter 35:99. Chu Li returned to his courtyard in the High Duke's public house and sat under the glorious tree to figure out the heaven-killing scripture. Although Goddess Attraction Mountain was quiet and full of spiritual energy, it was safer to stay in his courtyard. As for the two ladies, they were in a good state and should not be disturbed. He estimated that they could cultivate in isolation for another 2 to 3 months. The first stage of the heaven-killing scripture was to sense the existence of a strange power and control it. This power was not the current inner energy, nor was it spiritual energy. It was different from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It existed between heaven and earth, but could not be sensed. This was the power of time. Because Chu Li had the life and death scripture and the earth matrix and reincarnation scripture, he had a deep understanding of life and death. He could easily sense the power of time. To practice this technique, one needed to be old enough to understand the changes of life and death, as well as the changes of time. It was very difficult for young people to reach this step. If they could understand it, then they could understand it. If they couldn't understand it, then they couldn't understand it. Young people were full of life and did not know the shortness of life. They thought that life was long, and there was a long time waiting for them. They were so far away from death that they could not see it. It was almost impossible to feel the existence of time in this state. Just as Chu Li was about to start his cultivation, he suddenly felt a jolt in his heart. He disappeared from his courtyard and arrived at a forest outside of Chongming town. Fa Yuan was standing under a jujube tree, lost in thought. His gray cowl fluttered in the wind, exuding an aura of dust. When Chu Li appeared, he turned around and bowed. "Brother Chu, sorry to disturb you." Chu Li asked, "What is it?" If it was not urgent, Fa Yuan would not have come in a hurry. Fa Yuan sighed. "All the hearts of Azura in the Demon Suppression Tower have risen to the sky. None are left." Chu Li frowned. "Even if the enlightened master's remains were released?" "Yes." Fa Yuan nodded lightly and said, "Honorable Master Liao Ming's remains have already been placed on the tower to conceal the mysteries of heaven, but it's still useless. I saw with my own eyes that these hearts of Azura rose into the sky, directly passing through the demon, subduing tower, and disappearing into the sky. Then the divine gate opened to receive them." Chu Li's face turned serious. "The Azura boundary has made a move." Fa Yuan said, "I have a bad feeling about this." Chu Li frowned. "What do you think?" "I'm afraid that even the Azuras will descend." Fa Yuan let out a sigh and said, although the descent of the Deva has caused a great disturbance in the world, there are still some scruples after all, and they dare not be too presumptuous. But if it's Azura, Amitba, he shook his head gently, put his palms together, and chanted the name of Buddha. That will be a catastrophe for all living beings. Chuli nodded. Does the Tempest Temple have a way to deal with this? Fa Yuan sighed. Compared to the Outland, the Tempest Temple is nothing. That's true, Chuli said. If that's the case, we can only deal with it carefully. Don't worry about the catastrophe of all living beings for now. Think about your Tempest Temple first. Once the Azuras descend, the Tempest Temple will definitely be a thorn in their side. They'll be the first to destroy it. That's right. Fa Yuan nodded lightly. That's why I'm here to inform you in advance. When the time comes, I hope that Brother Chu will be able to assist me. Of course. Chuli said, we're in the same boat. Neither of us can escape. They want to deal with me too. He had killed quite a few Azuras, and had even taken control of a group of them. Crack! One of the prayer beads on Fa Yuan's chest suddenly cracked, and a crisp sound could be heard. Fa Yuan's expression changed slightly. He quickly said, Brother Chu, this is bad. Chuli said, let's go. The two of them disappeared almost at the same time. The next moment, they appeared in the Tempest Temple. The chanting of scriptures was endless. The Tempest Temple was bathed in a solemn Buddha's light. Chuli could see an invisible golden light shrouding the sky above the Tempest Temple, enveloping the entire temple. However, at this time, the golden light was shaking. It was as if an invisible force was colliding with the Buddha's light. Moreover, it was much thinner than what Chuli had seen before. It was obvious that it was destroying the Buddha's light. Chuli and Fa Yuan appeared on top of the pagoda, where Fa Yuan was previously sealed as a god. They looked down at their surroundings. Chuli pointed to the southeast and said, over there. Fa Yuan nodded. The two of them disappeared from the pagoda and appeared above a forest in the next moment. A section of the courtyard wall of the Great Tempest Temple was hidden in the pine forest. At this moment, two middle-aged men were waving their palms and gently patting the red courtyard wall. They were soundless and extremely gentle, but every palm hit the Buddha light. Their palms were different from human palms. They were unusually long and thin. Their fingers were curled like eagle claws. Their nails were especially long and dark, as if they were cast from black iron. They shone with a strange luster. Chuli and Fa Yuan stood in the void silently, looking down at the two men. At a glance, the two middle-aged men were shrouded in a red light. Their bodies could not be seen clearly. Chuli could only vaguely see their silhouettes. However, a strange chill filled the air, causing him to unconsciously take a step back. This was the feeling of meeting a spirit beast. It was as if he had met his natural enemy. Fa Yuan turned his head to look at him. Chuli sighed. It should be Azura from the Outland. His voice startled the two middle-aged men who were focused on waving their palms. They looked up, and their faces were still gloomy. They only glanced at Chuli and Fa Yuan coldly and continued waving their palms. When the Buddha's light touched their palms, white bones were exposed. Their flesh and blood were melted away. It looked eerie and terrifying. However, the two men did not seem to care about this abnormality. It was as if their palms did not belong to them. No matter how the Buddha's light melted their palms, they would immediately recover. Then, when they touched the Buddha's light, their flesh and blood would be melted away. The cycle continued, and the Buddha's light became dimmer. Chuli frowned. The palm technique of the two Azuras seemed ordinary, but it was definitely not an ordinary palm technique. It was specially used to restrain the Buddha's light. The Tempest Temple's Buddha's light was not so easily depleted. It was accumulated over thousands of years. Fa Yuan also noticed the abnormality and said, Brother Chu, I'm going to make my move. We'll take one each. Chuli said, it's better to be careful. Amipa. Fa Yuan slowly chanted the name of Buddha. Almsgivers, please stop. As he spoke, a purplish golden light flashed around his body. The sentient menace was activated, and he floated towards one of the middle-aged men like a Luohan. Then, he gently slapped his palm down. His palm was purplish-golden. "Oomph, stupid monk, you deserve to die." The thinner, middle-aged man sneered and waved his palm. His right palm, which was like an eagle's claw, met Fa Yuan's attack gently and silently. Fa Yuan took a step back. The purplish-golden light around his body flowed continuously, but the color of his palm changed. A layer of black energy crawled up his purplish-golden palm and quickly spread. In the blink of an eye, it climbed from his palm to his wrist and continued to spread upward. Chu Li frowned. The aura around the two middle-aged men suddenly stagnated, making it hard for them to breathe. A strange, turbulent energy drilled into their bodies, trying to corrode and harm them. The pine trees around them quickly withered and turned yellow. Finally, they were bare and lifeless. Chu Li took a step forward and appeared in front of the other middle-aged man. He lightly slapped his palm, using the spiritual energy of the spirit tiger. Bang! The middle-aged man went forward and staggered a step back. His expression changed. Red light burst out from his body, and in the blink of an eye, he turned into a ball of flame. His figure could no longer be seen clearly. Only the burning red light was flickering. Chapter 3600. Chu Li frowned as he felt a strong threat. The red light on their bodies warned him to avoid them and not get close. Amitba, Fa Yuan chanted with a solemn voice. Then, a golden light shot out from his heart and shone on the black energy that had climbed up his arm. When the black energy met the golden light, it immediately turned into smoke and dissipated. Chu Li asked, "Fa Yuan, are you all right?" Fa Yuan said, "Brother Chu, be careful of their inner energy. It can damage your mind." Chu Li nodded. "You too." Fa Yuan heaved a sigh and said, "I can still handle it." He was not in a hurry to use his ultimate move to kill this Azura. He wanted to find out more about them. He deduced that there would not only be 2 Azuras descending. There would definitely be more, just like the celestial beings. If he could find out more about them, he could find a way to deal with them. He was extremely afraid of the Azura's methods. The palm energy that could damage the soul was extremely insidious. If it was not for his profound dermic base and Buddha's aura, anyone else would have been injured. Grandmasters did not care much about life and death. Even if they died, they would not have to enter reincarnation. They could directly ascend to the Outland and enjoy the wonders of the Outland. However, if they were injured like this and their soul was severely damaged, they might even disappear and not be able to enter reincarnation. This was more frightening to the Grandmasters than death. He could imagine how afraid the Grandmasters were of these Azuras. Just thinking about what would happen to the world sent chills down his spine. Chu Li suddenly struck out with his palm. A golden light descended from the sky and landed on his palm. It condensed into a shining golden palm print in front of his palm. In the next moment, the palm print hit the Azura's body. Bang! The Vajra palm collided with the red light and produced an earth-shattering explosion. The 4 people in the field were shocked by the explosion. Even Chu Li did not expect such a huge commotion. The Azura's face suddenly twisted and became ferocious as if it was suffering great pain. Chu Li's omniscient mirror saw his Vajra palm break through the red light and penetrate its chest. It kept burning there, and the golden light flashed like a flame, becoming stronger and stronger. The Vajra palm actually used the red light emitted by the Azura as fuel, continuously devouring it to strengthen itself. It seemed that this palm would be able to deal with the Azura, and such power exceeded his expectations. Could it be that the Vajra palm was specially designed to restrain their Azura power technique? Fa Yuan and the other Azura were stunned as well. They stared blankly at the Azura, watching as the muscles on his face gradually disappeared, revealing a skeleton-like face. The muscles on his limbs were also rapidly fading away, leaving only hard bones. The Azura suddenly raised his head and let out a soundless roar. Chu Li's vision swayed, and he felt dizzy. This Azura's roar had the effect of shaking one's soul. Mahavairocana's immobility scripture took effect immediately, quickly dispelling the strange feeling and regaining consciousness. He watched as the red light on the Asura's body suddenly blazed 10 times brighter as he ruthlessly slammed his palm onto his chest. Apart from dispersing the Vajra palm, he also broke 2 of his elbow bones. He glared at Chu Li with his glowing red eyes and appeared in front of Chu Li in the next moment. A palm print flashing with golden light struck him again. Chu Li had anticipated this, so he lowered his body and activated the sacrificial divine power. Then he gathered all the energy in his body to form the Vajra palm and waited. Bang! Another earth-shattering explosion was heard. Then the Asura, who had turned into a skeleton, was sent flying. The Vajra palm burned fiercely and burrowed into his body like maggots on bones. The Asura seemed to let out a soundless roar and hit his chest in the air, trying to dispel the Vajra palm. However, the Vajra palm this time was 10 times more powerful than before. Even after he broke 2 of his elbow bones, the Vajra palm was still burning fiercely, corroding his internal organs and constantly injuring him. The other Asura saw that the situation was not good and quickly rushed forward to help. The Asura power technique was activated, and the Asura power technique overlapped with each other. The red light on their bodies shone brightly, causing Chu Li's heart to sink. He did not expect the 2 of them to be as powerful as him and Sun Mingwei when they joined forces. This made it even more difficult to deal with them. The supreme titanium scripture was activated continuously, and the invisible red pillar in the sky reached straight to the outland. He quickly recovered the inner energy of the supreme titanium scripture, and without waiting for the 2 to dispel the Vajra palm, he struck again. An intense golden light descended from the sky and condensed into a golden palm, striking the Asura again. The 2 Vajra palms overlapped, and the damage was doubled. The Asura let out a pained roar, and then with a bang, his body was torn into pieces, and he was dead. A ball of red light quickly dissipated, meaning that he had completely disappeared. Chu Li shouted, and another Vajra palm hit the red light that was about to disappear. Bang! An earth-shattering explosion was heard again. After the red light was hit by the Vajra palm, it shone again, and the Vajra palm that was emitting a blazing golden light was pressed on a fist-sized ball. Amipa. F.A. Yuan's expression was solemn. He recognized that it was the heart of Asura. Just as he was about to grab it, a red shadow flashed, and another Asura appeared next to the heart of Asura, swallowing it in one gulp. The fist-sized ball seemed to be unable to enter his mouth, but when the ball reached his mouth, it changed shape, becoming long and flat, allowing the heart of Asura to swallow it. The red light on this Asura's body suddenly shone, and it was twice as intense as before. Chu Li frowned. After this Asura swallowed its companion's power, its power multiplied, and it was no different from 2 people working together. This was troublesome. If they could not only swallow one heart of Asura, but could swallow multiple hearts, how strong would they be? Amipa. F.A. Yuan also thought of this, and his expression became solemn. He first formed a mudra with both of his palms, and then slowly slammed his palm towards this Asura. His palm flashed with a purplish gold light, and the purplish gold light gradually left his palm, condensing into a palm print, and struck out. This golden palm was similar to Chu Li's Vajra palm, but the color of the light was slightly different. Chu Li's golden light was brighter and grander, while F.A. Yuan's golden light was purplish gold, and it was heavier and more stable. Bang! In an earth-shattering explosion, this Asura was sent flying. F.A. Yuan's purplish gold palm print quickly penetrated the red light on the Asura's chest and broke through his clothes. The skin on his chest quickly corroded, revealing his white bones, and it continued to drill in, corroding his flesh. Chu Li was speechless. It turned out that not only his Vajra palm, but F.A. Yuan's palm energy also had this effect. It seemed that the heart technique of Buddhism was effective against Asuras. If that was the case, the Tempest Temple would be in trouble. The first target of the Azura that descended from the sky would be the Tempest Temple, and they must destroy the Tempest Temple to get rid of this great threat. Fa Yuan's expression became more solemn, and he also thought of this. Amipa. He chanted the name of Buddha, and without waiting for the Azura to react, another purplish gold palm print hit him. Even though the Azura had doubled in strength, it still could not withstand Fa Yuan's palm energy. Gradually, its power was worn down by the purplish gold palm print, and in the end, it broke into pieces. With a loud bang, the two red lights were about to dissipate. Chapter 36:01. Chu Li stepped forward to support him and sent a warm inner energy to him. At the same time, he struck a ball of red light with his Vajra palm energy. He realized that Fa Yuan was empty and his body was empty. For an enlightened master, this was rare and almost impossible. An enlightened master's inner energy was endless and almost infinite. Fa Yuan borrowed Chu Li's inner energy and struck out with his palm as well. The two golden palms prevented the two balls of red light from dissipating. They were stuck in a stalemate in the air for a while. Fa Yuan smiled bitterly. "Thank you, Brother Chu." Chu Li said, "There's no need for us to thank each other." He looked at the two balls of red light that were fighting against the two golden palm prints. For a moment, they were in a stalemate. The red light was even more powerful than the red light from the two Azuras. It was able to prevent the two hearts of Azura from being hit. Fa Yuan sighed. "From now on, the world is going to be in chaos." Chu Li said, "Don't be so pessimistic. There might be a turn for the better. However, the Tempest Temple needs to be prepared first. It's going to be very dangerous this time." Once the two Azuras broke through the defenses of the Tempest Temple, they would charge in and start a massacre. It was unknown how many disciples of the Tempest Temple would be out of luck. What was worse was that the two Azuras had the power to injure their souls. The disciples of the Tempest Temple would not even be able to enter the Outland. Fa Yuan nodded lightly. "Indeed, we need to prepare well." Chu Li asked, "Can you block it?" "Do your best." Fa Yuan frowned as he looked at the two hearts of Azura. Suddenly, two beams of red light fell from the sky and accurately hit the two hearts of Azura, directly dispersing Chu Li and Fa Yuan's golden palm prints. Bang bang. With two explosions, the two hearts of Azura shot up into the sky and disappeared in an instant. The two beams of red light disappeared as well, as if they had never been there. Chu Li glared at the sky with a gloomy expression and turned to look at Fa Yuan. Fa Yuan's expression was ugly too. It was obvious that the Azura of the sky beyond sky had interfered and taken away the heart of Azura. Fa Yuan said in a low voice, "This is the same method used to steal the heart of Azura from the demon subduing tower. What a great Azura!" Chu Li gritted his teeth and scoffed. "Looks like the world is indeed going to be in chaos." The Azuras of the sky beyond Avalon directly intervened, which was even more blatant than the sky beyond Avalon's methods. Fa Yuan asked, "What palm technique did Brother Chu use earlier?" "Vajra palm," Chu Li said calmly. "I obtained it through a fortuitous encounter. This is indeed the supreme palm technique of Buddhism." Fa Yuan smiled. "Brother Chu's luck is always good." Chu Li scoffed. "You're much luckier than me. I've taken many risks and suffered many setbacks to get to where I am today. Fa Yuan, on the other hand, you've been gifted since you were young. You've entered the Tempest Temple and cultivated step by step. At the very last moment, there's even someone to help you increase your cultivation level. From then on, you've steadily stepped into the enlightened mastery's boundary. Right now, I'm still far from becoming an enlightened master. Brother Chu is now stronger than an enlightened master," Fa Yuan said with a smile. He also felt that what Chu Li said made sense. Fortuitous encounters were often accompanied by strange dangers. Chu Li did not have a master, so it was a miracle that he could cultivate to this stage. The amount of effort and suffering he had to put in was 10 times, or even 10 times more than what he had. Chu Li said, An enlightened master and a grandmaster are two completely different boundaries. They can't be compared. If he became an enlightened master, it would be easier for him to fight. Killing an Asura would be effortless, and he would not need to use any sacrificial divine power. Moreover, once an enlightened master was cultivated, he would be able to freely use his divine powers in front of other enlightened masters. The power of God's limbs, an omniscient mirror, would be 100 times stronger. Unlike now, when he was in front of an enlightened master, his divine powers were restrained in the enlightened master field. It was as if his eyes were blinded and his legs were cut off. It was extremely awkward, and his strength was greatly reduced. Fa Yuan said, "Brother Chu, you're not far from becoming an enlightened master, right?" Chu Li shook his head and sighed. "It's not far, but it's not close either. It still depends on luck. If I'm unlucky, I won't be able to become an enlightened master in 8 to 10 years. If I'm lucky, I'll be able to do it in half a year." The key now was the vermilion bird. If he could find a vermilion bird's help and quickly cultivate the vermilion bird power, he might be able to step into the enlightened master's boundary. Now, he was trying to combine the 3 heart techniques other than the vermilion bird power, and he was beginning to see results. Fa Yuan said, "Then I wish you good luck, Brother Chu. Continue." "Yes, I can only hope." Chu Li sighed. "It seems that Buddhist martial arts are more effective against Asuras than I thought." "That's right." Fa Yuan nodded. He knew that both Buddhist martial arts and Buddhist techniques could restrain Asuras. However, when he had encountered Asuras before and fought alongside Chu Li, the effects were not as strong. This time, however, the 2 Asuras from the Grandmaster's boundary could not even withstand his Sumeru palm and Chu Li's titanium palm. Chu Li was about to continue the discussion with Fa Yuan when his expression suddenly changed. Fa Yuan looked at him. Chu Li said, "There's an emergency. I'll leave first. If you're in danger, just call me." Fa Yuan pressed his palms together. Chu Li suddenly disappeared. The next moment, he appeared in the Divine Light Basilica of the Great Light Peak. Inside the Divine Light Basilica, the wind howled and thunder rumbled. 4 elders were surrounding Sun Mingwei. Li Meng was lying on the ground, motionless and lifeless. Sun Mingwei's face was covered with a white veil. The veil was dyed red, but her eyes were as cold as ice. The 4 elders' bodies were faintly glowing with a red light. However, the red light, which was easily overlooked, made Chu Li shudder. These 4 elders were Asuras, and their abilities were 5 to 6 times stronger than the ones he had encountered before. Sun Mingwei was obviously injured. She was at a disadvantage against the 4 elders' attacks. The 4 elders had a tacit understanding. Their claws were sharp, and their long and hard nails were like steel hooks. Every time they flashed, they sliced through the air and made a chi-chi sound. Every time Sun Mingwei's divine light fist collided with one of the elders, there would be a thunderous sound. Chu Li was not in a hurry to save Sun Mingwei. He first went to Li Meng. Li Meng was also dressed in white. She was lying on the ground with pieces of flesh around her mouth. It was obvious that her internal organs were destroyed. She was dead. He gave her a spirit blessing pill to see if it could save her life. Then, he turned to look at Sun Mingwei. Sun Mingwei had already seen Chu Li. After she calmed down, her body emitted a raging flame. It was as if a scorching sun had fallen into the basilica. The god's field became as intense as the blazing sun, as if it was going to melt everything. The 4 elders could only emit the red light around their bodies to resist the heat. The red light flickered continuously. It was obvious that they were fighting fiercely with Sun Mingwei's god's field. Chu Li could see that Sun Mingwei's divine light fist and great light scripture were restraining the 4 elders' red light. Chu Li immediately understood. In a flash, the void light technique disappeared with Li Meng. The next moment, he reappeared and stood side by side with Sun Mingwei. They were surrounded by the 4 elders. It was only when they stepped into the arena that they felt the strength of the 4 Asuras. Their nails were as sharp as knives. Even if they were not cut, they could feel the pain from a distance. Chapter 36:02. As soon as Sun Mingyue held his hand, both of their auras were connected and their powers increased by 2 times. Their powers increased by 2 times each, which was equivalent to a 4-fold increase. Chu Li endured the sharpness of Sun Mingyue's supreme titanium scripture's inner energy. As it flowed through his body, it continuously destroyed his meridians. Fortunately, his indestructible body of titanium and black tortoise power had strengthened his meridians. Even if her inner energy was destructive, it did not damage his meridians. Chu Li asked, "Why did they attack here?" "They appeared out of nowhere." Sun Mingyue replied, "They broke through the obstacles in one fell swoop. The Holy Church has been lax over the years and did not guard strictly enough, which gave them an opportunity." Chu Li shook his head. Even if the security was tight, it wouldn't have been able to stop them. Yes. Sun Mingyue's voice was slightly hoarse. This was what angered her. The Holy Church of Light's defense could not stop these 4 people. Each of them was not inferior to her, but the 4 of them joined forces and took the opportunity to kill her disciple. They harbored evil intentions. Just to make him lose his composure, they disregarded a life that was as beautiful as a flower and jade at that. As a master, she was unable to protect her own disciple. This made her furious. Being able to deal with it calmly was already her limit. If Chu Li still did not come, she would have to use a technique that would destroy everything indiscriminately. Chu Li used his divine light fist to deal with the 4 claw shadows and disperse them. He kept retreating as he said, "They've also attacked the Tempest Temple. I've already killed 2 of them. My Vajra palm is the perfect counter for them." The titanium palm? Sun Mingyue was surprised. She and Chu Li cultivated the supreme titanium scripture. She had reached the same level as Chu Li, but she did not cultivate the indestructible body of titanium. She was not that interested in the titanium palm. However, the titanium palm was different from the indestructible body of titanium. The titanium palm was a technique that mobilized palm energy. Although it was difficult to cultivate, it was not a problem for her. She had already mastered it. The indestructible body of titanium was layered, and each layer was more powerful than the one before. It required continuous cultivation. On the other hand, the titanium palm was mastered. All that was left was the control. "Come," Chu Li said. Sun Mingyue nodded lightly and suddenly struck out with her palm. A ray of golden light descended from the sky, passing through the roof of the hall and landing on her palm. It then condensed into a golden palm print in front of her palm. It was not as bright as Chu Li's, but it was so yellow that no one dared to look at it directly. Her body felt empty, and the internal energy of the Supreme Vajra Sutra was almost exhausted. Chu Li's supreme titanium scripture instantly helped her replenish her strength. Then, he pushed out his palm and unleashed all of his supreme titanium scripture's inner energy. His palm print was so fast that it instantly caught up with Sun Mingyue's palm print. The 2 palm imprints overlapped each other. Immediately, bright yellow light dazzled the eyes as it struck an elder. The old man stretched out his palm and sneered. The other 3 people pounced on Chu Li and Sun Mingyue at the same time. They could tell that the 2 of them were at their weakest after using their palms. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue retreated lightly to avoid the combined attack of the 3 elders. Bang! The Vajra palm struck the old man and sent him flying. The sound was as loud as a clap of thunder. The other 3 elders were shocked and looked at their companions. The old man's entire body had sunk into the red pillar. The red pillar looked like it was made of tofu. The palm print that was burning with yellow light kept pressing on the old man like it was trying to squeeze into his body. His body quickly dried up. His flesh was gone, and only his bones were left. He became a skeleton. After devouring his flesh, the yellow flame of the Vajra palm burned even more fiercely. It was so powerful that it seemed like it was going to burn his bones. Ah! The old man let out a roar. His voice was filled with intense pain and unwillingness. Bang! The old man suddenly exploded. The red pillar broke into 2, and the basilica shook. The other three elders seemed to be in disbelief. Then, their eyes turned red. Then, the red light on their bodies was no longer suppressed. It burned like a raging flame. The surging cold air seemed to freeze the divine light basilica. The red light was like a raging flame, but the aura it emitted was extremely cold. It chilled one's heart. Even with Chu Li and Sun Mingyue's willpower, they still wanted to escape. It was as if they had met their natural enemy. Chu Li understood that this was the murderous energy on their bodies. With every person they killed, the murderous energy would become stronger. With such a strong murderous energy, they had killed at least 1,000 people or even 10,000 people. Just the thought of it was terrifying. Kill! The three elders scoffed and pounced toward the flashing red light. They wanted to take back their companion's heart of Azura. Chu Li had already hit the heart of Azura with his palm. Then, he hit it again. The two Vajra palms seemed to wrap around the heart of Azura. The golden light flashed and formed a stalemate with the red light. Then, he hit it again. Sun Mingyue hit the three Azuras with her palms, preventing them from pouncing forward. Chu Li used the life and death scripture to recover the inner energy of the supreme titanium scripture. With Sun Mingyue's help, the Vajra palms did not slow down at all. One hit after another, the speed was unbelievably fast. He wanted to see if the Vajra palms could destroy the heart of Azura. Unfortunately, the red light outside the heart of Azura was extremely tough. No matter how hard the Vajra palms tried, it could not break through. Moreover, the more the red light was compressed, the stronger it became. When it was close to the heart of Azura, the Vajra palms could not break through. Suddenly, a red light fell from the sky like a thin red pillar. It penetrated the roof of the temple and landed on the heart of Azura. The heart of Azura suddenly swelled and then disappeared. The red light in the sky also disappeared. Chu Li's face darkened. The heart of Azura was taken back by the Grandmaster again. The remaining three worked together and pressured Sun Mingyue so much that she could not breathe. However, she did not retreat. She wanted nothing more than to crush them into pieces. As a master, if she could not protect her disciple, she should at least avenge her disciple. Chu Li took a deep breath and lowered his body. He performed the sacrificial power and then quickly hit the three with three Vajra palms. The Vajra palms ignored distance restrictions. Once it was condensed, it would hit in an instant. The three seemed to be prepared for it. They disappeared in a flash and hid behind a red pillar in the next moment. However, they did not expect the Vajra palms to turn. They were relieved when they went behind the red pillar. When the Vajra palms appeared again, it was too late for them to breathe. They could only watch as the Vajra palms hit their chests. Then the skin on their chests was corroded, followed by their flesh and blood, and finally, their vitality. It was like red-hot iron falling on snow. The iron melted without any resistance. They roared and hit the Vajra palms. They wanted to break it, but unfortunately, they could not. With Sun Mingyue's help, he used the sacrificial power again. He used his lifespan to amplify the supreme Vajra scripture's inner energy by 10 times. The power was shocking. After the three were hit, they quickly turned into skeletons and then disintegrated. The three balls of red light flashed and wanted to disappear. Chu Li frowned and hesitated for a moment. He still hit them 3 times. He was curious about what would happen to the 3 hearts of Azura if he ignored them. In the end, he decided to hit them hard and force them to return to the Grandmaster. Chapter 36:03. 3 red lights descended and took away the heart of Azura. The divine light basilica was in a mess. Sun Mingyue took a deep breath and took off the white veil on her face. Her eyes flashed coldly as she looked around. She had nowhere to vent her anger. Chu Li said, "Let's go and see Li Ming." Sigh. Sun Mingyue shook her head and sighed. She did not even want to face Li Ming. Ever since she was accepted into the faction, she was first put under Chu Li's care for a while. After laying a solid foundation, she was kept by Chu Li's side. Chu Li was strict with her, just like how her master treated her. Now that she thought about it, Li Ming was lively and different from her. She should not have been so strict with her. She should have been given more freedom and let her spiritual energy be more active. Maybe then she would have been more successful. Unfortunately, all these thoughts were just wishful thinking. Chu Li smiled. Don't worry, she won't die. Sun Mingwei was startled. Then, a smile appeared on her face. She suddenly thought of Chu Li's ability. He could bring the dead back to life. He had died a few times and was still alive. She quickened her pace and caught up to Chu Li. They arrived at the backyard. Li Ming was lying quietly on the bed. Her face was pale and her breath was weak. Chu Li smiled. Although she was badly injured, her body is still strong. She should be fine. Why don't I bring her back to recuperate for a while? The spiritual energy there is thicker. The spirit blessing pill of the House of Duke really lives up to its name. Sun Mingwei stared at Li Ming and shook her head. Such a rare medicine is in the House of Duke. Really, it was a waste for the House of Duke to have such a medicine. In the hands of the protectors of the House of Duke, it could only save an innate master. However, in the hands of the Holy Church of Light, it could save a top-notch grandmaster. Chu Li smiled. If you want it, I can give you some. The House of Duke has always given this medicine to outsiders. However, due to the low production, we don't give much. Most of it is for our own use. Aren't you afraid of getting into trouble because of your wealth? Sun Mingwei scoffed. Chu Li said, Actually, everyone knows the secret of this medicine. Unfortunately, the medicine is hard to come by. Sometimes, the House of Duke will sell some of the medicine outside so that people can cultivate it themselves. It's not a rare medicine anymore. Let's buy some too, Sun Mingwei said. Initially, she did not really believe in this spirit blessing pill. After all, it was just an elixir from the public house. Most of the time, it was just bragging about how miraculous it was. Now that she saw that Li Ming was saved by the spirit blessing pill, she realized that she had underestimated the spirit blessing pill. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Shui, Li Ming suddenly murmured. Sun Mingwei hurriedly poured a cup of water for Li Ming. She used her inner energy to cool the water down, making it warm and suitable for drinking. Then, she gently helped Li Ming up and slowly fed her the water. Li Ming slowly opened her eyes. Her gloomy eyes moved. She was currently lying in her master's embrace, struggling for a bit. Chu Li said, Don't move, Li Ming. How does it feel to be reincarnated? I'm alive again, Martial Uncle Chu? Li Ming smiled. Chu Li smiled and nodded. You're tough, you won't die. Li Ming chuckled. I thought I was going to die this time. I would never be able to see my master again. Before I die, I am filled with regret. Regret what? Chu Li asked. I wasn't diligent in my cultivation, so I couldn't step into the Grandmaster's boundary. Otherwise, I could still step into the Grandmaster's boundary after I die. Li Ming shook her head lightly. It would be great if I could see the Grandmaster's boundary. Is it because I didn't treat you well, so you want to see the Grandmaster? Sun Mingwei scoffed. Li Ming hurriedly said, Of course not. Master treats me extremely well. Chu Li chuckled. I've seen how your master treats you. It's really not extremely good. Sun Mingwei rolled her eyes at him. Chu Li said, How about it? Do you want to come to my place to recuperate? I still have to go, Li Ming said with a bitter face. Don't tell me I have to chant scriptures again. You've passed the scripture chanting part. Chu Li smiled. Your cultivation progress is indeed too slow. I have to help you grow faster. What should I do then? Li Ming asked. Chu Li looked at Sun Mingwei and said, Why don't you send her to the Snow Lunar Pavilion? I have a friend there who can take care of her. Moreover, there's a surpassing state in the Snow Lunar Pavilion. She can directly step into the Grandmaster's boundary. Sun Mingwei hesitated for a moment before nodding gently. The Great Light Peak was now a dangerous place. Logically speaking, Li Ming could not retreat. However, Li Ming's cultivation level was too low. She would only die if she stayed. It was best to send her to the Snow Lunar Pavilion. There was Li Hanyin there, who was Chu Li's confidant. I don't want to leave, Master, Li Ming hurriedly said. Sun Mingwei gave her a sidelong glance. Li Ming hurriedly smiled. But I know I'll only be a burden if I stay. I'll definitely train hard. If you slack off, you won't have a good time when you come back. Sun Mingwe scoffed. Don't worry, master. Li Ming hurriedly put on an obedient look. Her complexion was getting better. Of course, it was because of the spirit blessing pill, but it was also because Chu Li had secretly activated the life and death scripture to help her recover. Chu Li and Sun Mingwe stood at the top of the great light peak with their hands behind their backs, bathing in the watery moonlight. I wonder how many Azuras have come down this time, Chu Li said solemnly. The Tempest Temple has made their move, and so has this place. It's very likely that they're targeting the Buddhist sections. He was not too worried about the Titanium Temple. He had personally experienced the strength of the Titanium Temple. Not to mention the temple's defense. Even the few elders in the temple were all invincible. He would not be able to get away with it, let alone the Azuras. Sun Mingwe said, if it's really as you said, and the Celestials and Azuras are fighting, then the mission of the Azuras is to kill the Celestials, right? It's useless to kill the Grandmasters. Instead, they'll become strong reinforcements. Chu Li shook his head. The Azuras can damage souls. They can even destroy the souls of the Grandmasters. Sun Mingwe frowned. Then we'll be in trouble. Chu Li sighed. I'm just afraid that their target is the Grandmasters. They want to kill all the Grandmasters and cut off the support from this world to the Grandmasters. Sun Mingwe nodded lightly. She had the same concern. If that was really the case, it would definitely set off a bloody storm. Who knew how many Grandmasters would survive? Moreover, the Azura's cultivation method was to kill people. They might not care about anything and kill wantonly. They might not even let ordinary people go. Just the thought of it was frightening. Looks like we'll have to join forces with the other enlightened masters to deal with the Azuras. Sun Mingwe frowned. Don't forget about the reincarnation temple. Although that monk Lun Ming is despicable, we can't not save him. Chu Li nodded. He did not like monk Lun Ming at all. He even wanted to kill him. This old monk was hypocritical and cunning. Chu Li really wanted to get rid of him. However, he was always so slippery that he could not find a chance to kill him. When the howling cold wind blew by the two of them, it turned into a gentle breeze that ruffled their clothes. Sun Mingwe gently stroked her hair and said calmly, you must be careful. You'll definitely become a thorn in their side after killing so many Azuras. I'm afraid the first one they'll want to get rid of will be you. Chu Li scoffed. I'm waiting for them. I can see that you're happy. Did you get what you wanted? Sun Mingwe asked. Did you collect the Spirit Beast Heart Technique? Chu Li smiled and nodded. Then I must congratulate you. Sun Mingwe nodded. But you must be more careful. Chu Li said, I'll be careful. I'll go back and cultivate first. Call me if there's anything. Chapter 36:04. When Chu Li sent Li Ming to Snow Lunar Pavilion, Li Hanyin, who had just returned from her training, grumbled at him. He did not visit her for a long time and did not care about her at all. She wanted to know how he killed an enlightened master, how he could kill one when he was still a grandmaster, and if she could do it. Her cultivation improved by leaps and bounds, but she was only a grandmaster. When he saw Lu Yurong's solemn expression, he knew it was not a trivial matter. His Majesty has ascended. Lu Yurong said. Under the moonlight, she looked like she was carved from white jade, her skin warm and translucent. Chu Li was stunned. Lung Wufeng has ascended? Yes. Lu Yurong nodded slowly. It happened 2 hours ago. His Highness the Crown Prince is now an enlightened master and the new emperor. Chu Li frowned. Why did he suddenly ascend? Did he do it himself? He was killed by someone. Lu Yurong said, just like Tang Haoqian back then. Chu Li asked, which one of them could have killed him? I heard it was done by a celestial, Lu Yurong said slowly. Celestial? Chu Li scoffed. Not Azura. Azura came down too? Lu Yurong frowned. They came down so quickly? You know, Chu Li asked. Lu Yurong said, this is my speculation. I think that the celestial beings fought with Azura and were at a disadvantage, so they came down to recruit soldiers. They must have done this behind Azura's back, so they shouldn't have been discovered so quickly. If they could have kept it a secret for a long time, they wouldn't have lost. Chu Li scoffed. That's true. Lu Yurong frowned and scoffed, then looked at him. Suan was supposed to inherit the throne, but it seems like it's too late. Once the crown prince ascends, King An's imperial residence will. King Jing looked kind on the outside, but he was harsh on the inside. If he wanted his son to inherit the throne, he would definitely eliminate anyone who could threaten Lung Wufeng, and the most important one was Suen. If Suen was not eliminated, it would be difficult for Lung Wufeng to become an enlightened master. Although there was still a long way to go before the next enlightened master, they had to be careful because Suen was a disciple of the Titanium Temple. Once he was successful, even an enlightened master would not be a threat. Thus, if they wanted to act, they had to do it as soon as possible. They had to eliminate Suen before he grew stronger. Chu Li was the first obstacle to getting rid of Su, and Lu Yurong did not need to think too much about it. She immediately concluded that King Jing would definitely deal with Chu Li. Even if Chu Li had a reputation of killing enlightened masters, King Jing, who had just obtained an overbearing power, would not take it to heart. He would only believe it if he tried it himself. Chu Li nodded slowly. I would like to experience the new emperor's divine power. It's better to be careful. King Jing is more powerful than Lung Wufeng, Lu Yurong said. Don't fail miserably and fall into his hands. Of course. Chu Li smiled. Did you gain anything from the mystical lady of the 9 heavens? The harvest is huge, unimaginably huge. Lu Yurong sighed and said, if I were to cultivate by myself, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to reach this level in my entire life. The Empyrean fairy power is truly mysterious. Chu Li nodded. Lu Yurong's current strength was not inferior to Shao Qi, who was in isolated cultivation. It was as if the two of them had an agreement. One was strong, and the other was strong. Both of them were improving rapidly. Although there was still a huge gap between them, they were only slightly inferior to enlightened masters. Although Lu Yurong did not have an Empyrean supporting her, she had the support of the mystical lady of the 9 heavens. The mystical lady of the 9 heavens was also an ancient sect that was showing signs of revival. Chu Li vaguely felt that there might be an Empyrean hiding behind it. Hee, you're really here. Suddenly, a hearty laugh was heard. The two of them turned to look. A figure in bright yellow appeared in the void. It was King Jing, the new emperor, Lung Shoren. Chu Li gave a fist salute and said, Congratulations, Your Majesty. Lung Shoren chuckled. I'm afraid I've disappointed Chief Chu. Chapter 3605. Chu Li waved his hand. Don't even think about it. Gather? Zhan Yang Tua Xueling said, Master, you're going to take the risk again. Why do you have to do this? You've already reached such a level where even enlightened masters are no match for you. Why do you still want to take the risk? Cultivation is like rowing a boat against the current. If you don't advance, you'll fall behind. If you want to improve further, you can only take risks. Chu Li shook his head. Xueling, you're a smart girl. You should understand this. Master, even if you don't advance now, you won't be able to retreat too far. How many people in this world are your match? Xueling said. Tang Su from the Fu dynasty? Sun Mingwei from Dali? Or Monk Luan Ming from the Reincarnation Temple? Chu Li said, the world is in chaos now. Not only are there enlightened masters, but there are also celestial beings and Asuras descending from the outland. If I want to be invincible, I'll have to work hard to cultivate. There's no other way. If I don't work hard, how can I protect the High Duke's public house? But, Xueling frowned and said, even so, there is no need to take such a big risk. To live is to take risks. Every day, there are countless dangers that can kill a person. Even sitting at home, a brick might fall from the sky and smash you to death. Chu Li smiled. So, you should just relax. Shui remained unmoved. If that was really the case, the young master would not have written such an unusual letter. This was equivalent to his last words, a sign of his will to live and die. Chu Li said, Xueling, are my words no longer useful now? Gongzi, Xueling said angrily. Can't you think more about the third lady and cherish your life more? Guy back, relieving stress. Sturdy bones Australian rice judge cattle. Grindstone. Pursing lips? Tue Chien? Kiss and play? Huan Bei. Huang Imo and Huan Bai and Lu Bai and Lu Bai and Lu Bai. Huan Bei, Li Bai, Li Bai, Li Bai, Li Bai, Li Bai, Li Bai. He puffed up his cheeks and vomited. All right. The more Shuel Ling listened, the more she could not bear to listen. She frowned and said, Master, this is it. Chu Li waved his hand. He did not want to listen to her anymore. Shuel Ling said in annoyance, Do you really want to be stubborn? Chu Li nodded. I have to. Then I'll tell Third Mississippi. Shuel Ling scoffed and said, Back then, Third Lady had told me that you would return to your old ways. If that's the case, you should inform her. Chu Li was stunned for a moment before he smiled. Did she really say that? Of course, Shuel Ling replied. Chu Li shook his head and said, Even if she comes back, she'll still agree to marry me in the end. It's settled then. He did not wait for Shuel Ling to react and suddenly disappeared. Master! Shuel Ling extended her hand and called out. But Chu Li had already disappeared. Shuel Ling stomped her feet unwillingly. She was anxious and flustered. What if she really cannot make it back? Just thinking about it made her tremble in fear. She could not suppress the chill in her heart. Chu Li suddenly appeared in the ice pool of the 100,000 Hills. When he appeared in the ice pool, Sun Mingwei and Lu Yurong's faces flashed across his mind. He had not properly bid them farewell. He shook his head and sighed. If he was really going to disappear, what was the point of saying goodbye? His hand pressed on the heaven-killing sword. The heaven-killing incantation had already been activated. Suddenly, it was as if he and the sword had become one. The sword was him, and he was the sword. He became indestructible and unbreakable. The sword was him. It was as if the sword had become a part of his body. He could command it at will, and its power was infinite. It felt like a sword could cut through the galaxy, the sky, and all the masters in the Grandmaster's boundary. This feeling was so clear and real that he almost believed it. Mahavairocana's immobility scripture automatically activated and dissolved this strange confidence. His body and mind returned to calmness like a sword being sheathed instead of showing off its edge. He then looked around. He stood beside the ice pool for a long time. His whole body was on guard. He activated the heaven-killing scripture. Although he did not use his sword and did not use the heaven-killing 3 forms, which did not consume his lifespan, it consumed a lot of his inner energy. When the heaven-killing scripture did not use the heaven-killing 3 forms, it used inner energy. Moreover, it consumed a lot of inner energy and was extremely fast. After a while, he actually felt empty. If this went on, he would collapse before his opponent came out. He could not help but recall the time when he fought with Song Jifan. Song Jifan's inner energy was really strong. At that time, he did not seem to be unable to withstand the consumption of inner energy. It was obviously the effect of the ageless longevity technique. When he thought of the ageless longevity technique devouring others, he could not help but feel disgusted. After a long time, there was still no movement around. The spirit tiger did not appear. There was only a gentle breeze mixed with the chill of the ice peaks. Some of the ice peaks around him were destroyed by the little vermilion bird. There were still some left, but after a while, they gradually recovered. The ice peaks stood up one by one. Chu Li was secretly amazed. The 100,000 Hills were really amazing. He finally confirmed that the spirit tiger did not appear. It seemed like it did not sense him, but it was more likely that it did sense him but did not care. The spirit tiger's sensitivity was definitely beyond his imagination. Initially, he had come here with the intention to die, to cultivate to become an Empyrean god and not to become one. Never would he have thought that the outcome would be like this. The spirit tiger did not chase after him relentlessly as he had expected, but could not be bothered to deal with him. He chuckled and shook his head to look at a little sparrow. The little sparrow was standing on a rock on the snow-capped peak. It stared at him with its clear eyes. Chu Li recognized it at first glance. It was the little vermilion bird. He was a little curious. The little vermilion bird still came. Could it be that it had not given up? When he saw the little vermilion bird, he was instantly filled with eagerness. If the little vermilion bird could help him cultivate, he would definitely be able to cultivate the vermilion bird power quickly and become an enlightened master within a month. Although it was a little presumptuous, it was the only way. There was no other way. Why are you here? Chuli waved his hand as a greeting to the little vermilion bird. The little vermilion bird turned its head away from him and scoffed. Chuli smiled. Are you in trouble and need my help? Umph. The little vermilion bird's voice rang in his mind. Chuli said, if that's the case, then it's true. Umph. The little vermilion bird's crisp voice rang again. Chuli smiled. Since there's something you need, tell me. I'll try my best. I don't need your help. The little vermilion bird scoffed again. Chuli said, you really don't need it? I don't need it. The little vermilion bird turned its head far away. Chuli was secretly amused. Although the little vermilion bird had lived far longer than him, it had less experience and lived in the 100,000 hills, so it did not lose its innocence. It stayed here and waited for him. It could not defeat him, so would not ask for trouble. Of course, it would ask for his help, but she could not bring herself to do it. He laughed to himself, but did not show it. He closed fist saluted. If that's the case, I'll take my leave. Roar. Suddenly, a roar was heard, shaking his soul. His body froze, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. He slowly turned around and saw two spirit tigers standing in the void. One was big and one was small. Their silver-white fur moved without any wind, and light rolled around them. The two spirit tigers stood in the void and looked at Chuli quietly. Their eyes were cold and emotionless, as if they were looking at a dead man. Chuli pressed his hand on the Sky Killer Sword. Update complete. Chapter 3606. Lu Yurong hit him with ease, not showing any mercy just because he was a prince. She did not only slap Lung Feng once or twice. She did it smoothly and without hesitation. Lung Feng covered his face and cried. His tears flowed uncontrollably. Lung Feng covered his face and glared at Lu Yurong. I'm a prince now. You dare hit me? I'm hitting you. You're full of nonsense. Get out of my sight, Lu Yurong said coldly. Lung Feng shouted. Aren't you afraid of bringing trouble to the Rin public house? Lu Yurong squinted her eyes and said, You dare threaten me now that you've grown up? I'm not like before. I'm a prince now. Lung Feng clenched his teeth. What's a prince? Who does a prince think he is? Shut up. I don't want to listen to you anymore. Get lost right now, or I'll hit you again. Lu Yurong waved her hand in annoyance. Her face was filled with impatience. I'd like to see if you dare to hit me again. Lung Feng glared at her. Slap. Lu Yurong waved her hand and slapped him again. Lung Feng tumbled away. There was blood at the corner of his mouth, and his teeth started to loosen. He widened his eyes in disbelief and glared at Lu Yurong. You really hit me? You even hit me so hard? If you don't shut up, I'll cripple you. Lu Yurong waved her hand. Lung Feng glared at her. You don't want to be with me anymore? Of course. Lu Yurong looked disgusted. Are you going to get out or not? Fine. Fine. Lung Feng took a deep breath. Don't regret this. Regret. Lu Yurong chuckled and shook her head. As a prince, you harbor evil intentions towards a married woman. How dare you show your face in public? You've known me since I was young. If I can't have something, I'd rather destroy it than let someone else have it. Lung Feng gritted his teeth and said slowly. The corner of his mouth twitched. After his teeth loosened, it hurt when he bit down hard. Lu Yurong chuckled. Yes, you're a natural-born bad guy with an evil heart. If His Majesty is wise, he'll get rid of you first to prevent you from hurting him in the future. You. Lung Feng pointed at her. A cold light flashed across his eyes. Clap, clap, clap. Suddenly, 3 claps rang out. Lu Yurong's expression changed slightly, but quickly returned to normal. She turned her head and looked 10 meters behind her, 2 meters up in the air. The Emperor, Long Shorin, was standing in the air with his hands behind his back. He was dressed in a bright yellow robe and looked extremely noble. Lu Yurong said lightly, What brings you here, Your Majesty? Long Shorin pointed at Lung Feng and shook his head. Fenger is a prince after all. If you attack him like this, Aren't you overstepping your boundaries? If it were someone else, I would have killed him right away. Would I have shown mercy? Lu Yurong said calmly. Don't tell me your majesty is standing up for Lung Feng. As our only bloodline, he naturally needs to be protected. Lung Shoren nodded slightly. You know that as an enlightened realm god, there are many rules to follow. One of them is that you can't attack anyone who isn't an enlightened realm god. And then, Lu Yurong scoffed. Lung Shoren said, however, there is an exception. If the other party hurts the bloodline of the enlightened master can intervene. Your majesty wants to kill me? Lu Yurong asked calmly. Lung Shoren nodded slowly. Yurong, you can't blame me for this. You should know that. Yes. Lu Yurong chuckled and looked at him with disdain. Because I know too much about your majesty. I know too many secrets. Now that your majesty has ascended the throne, you want to get rid of me. You are indeed, Yurong, so smart. Lung Shoren nodded and sighed. Yurong, I actually gave you a chance. Sadly, you didn't cherish it. It really hurts my heart. Your majesty, why are you acting so hypocritical? It's not like I don't know you. Lu Yurong shook her head and smiled. Her snow-white lips curled into a mocking smile. Sigh, that's true. Lung Shoren laughed. He shook his head and sighed. Yurong, are you thinking about Chu Li? Yes. Lu Yurong nodded. Your majesty, aren't you afraid that he will kill you and get rid of you? When that happens, the throne of the Lung family will be on the verge of collapse. The 12 High Dukes' public houses might choose another successor. Yurong, do you think that I am such an unreliable person? Lung Shoren chuckled. He hasn't been here for a while, right? To be honest, he is too busy right now. Even if you ask him for help, he won't be able to come because something big happened at Goddess Attraction Mountain. He can't take care of you. What happened? Lu Yurong frowned. Lung Shoren said, Zhou Dunley is about to ascend Goddess Attraction Mountain. Chu Li is probably preparing to take over as an enlightened master. At this crucial moment, he needs to focus and ignore everything else. He needs to improve his cultivation level so that the position of enlightened master doesn't fall outside of Goddess Attraction Mountain. He is even receiving the enlightenment technique. Your Majesty, you have thought it through. Lu Yurong said, I am impressed. I am still inferior to you in this aspect. Unfortunately, Yurong and I are not on the same path. You can't be used by me. What a shame. Lung Shoren shook his head. He was indeed regretful. A genius like Lu Yurong could hardly be seen again. If she died, there would be one less. Lu Yurong said, Your Majesty, why waste your breath? Just do it. Yurong, why don't you think about it? Lung Shoren said, It's not too late to change your mind. Come, help me. I can give you more than your nominal husband. Chu Li. Lu Yurong said coldly, If the Fu Dynasty's prince comes to propose again, your Majesty will be the first to agree, right? That's right. Lung Shoren nodded with difficulty. He could not deny this, or else he would be mocked by Lu Yurong. The Fu dynasty was too powerful. Even as an enlightened master, he could only submit to Tang Su's pressure. He had no other choice, just like his father's choice back then. Lu Yurong said, Your Majesty can't protect me, but Chu Li can. This is where the difference lies. So why must your Majesty argue and humiliate yourself? All right. Lung Shoren's nameless karmic fire burned. Lu Yurong had exposed his wounds. He could not control himself. Then I'll send you to heaven. Lung Shoren took a deep breath and scoffed coldly. The enlightened master's field spread out. Lung Feng quickly retreated and even ran out of the backyard. He could not bear the pressure of the enlightened master's field. Lu Yurong's clothes were as white as snow. Her sleeves fluttered as she quietly looked at Lung Shoren. A giant, elusive ninth heaven fairy slowly appeared in the void above her. Her face was her face. One could vaguely see her expression. It was as cold as ice. There was no human emotion in her eyes. Lung Shoren frowned. Lu Yurong was much stronger than before. Just as he was about to make a move, Lu Yurong had already struck. A ray of light fell from the sky. It condensed into a palm behind Lung Shoren and hit him on the back without giving him a chance to react. Bam! Lung Shorin was sent flying. He was in disbelief. He turned to look at the elusive ninth heaven fairy in the void. The elusive ninth heaven fairy stared at him without moving. He felt like a mouse being stared at by a big cat. His hair stood on end. He wanted to run away. This elusive ninth heaven fairy was really strange. Lu Yurong hit him again. The elusive ninth heaven fairy seemed to take a step forward. Lung Shorin's back was hit, and he was sent flying again. Chapter 36:07. Lu Yurong seemed to have changed into a different person. She looked at him calmly and struck again. Lung Shorin disappeared in a flash and appeared behind Lu Yurong. His right fist was aimed at Lu Yurong's back. Bam! Lung Shorin's back was hit again. Lu Yurong dodged, and Lung Shorin flew past her. Shaking her head, Lu Yurong struck again. Bam, 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 bam. Lung Shorin no longer had the power of an enlightened master. He was hit continuously and had no energy to fight back. Just as he was about to gather energy to strike again, Lu Yurong's Empyrean Fairy Palm arrived. The Empyrean Fairy Palm was of extreme and extreme coldness. Even though Lung Shorin was an enlightened master, he was still hit so hard that he kept spitting out blood. The extreme and extreme coldness of the palm was unimaginably firm and pure. It was like a knife was stirring up his internal organs. Ah! Lung Shorin roared. He felt wronged. He thought that without Chu Li, it would be easy for him to defeat Lu Yurong. He did not expect Lu Yurong to be so powerful that she could defeat an enlightened master. What was wrong with this world? The enlightened master, who was unreachable, had become like this. Even a genius could defeat an enlightened master. Being an enlightened master was so boring. It was completely different from what he had imagined. Lu Yurong's face was expressionless. She continued to strike. Lung Shorin roared again. Men! Meng Xiaoqi suddenly appeared in the air and drew his sword. The sword was as black as ink. The moment it was drawn, it was already near Lu Yurong's body. Lu Yurong's white robe fluttered like the sail of a sailboat. She took the opportunity to move away and barely avoided the sword. Lung Shorin took a breather and immediately pounced on her. He ignored the injuries to his internal organs and continued to attack. Lu Yurong frowned. Meng Xiaoqi's sword was indeed strange. With one strike, her mind was immediately restrained and she could not escape. She was trapped deeper and deeper. The power of the Empyrean Fairy Palm was reduced by half. Coupled with Lung Shorin's help, it was even more difficult for her. Without Meng Xiaoqi restraining her, she could easily beat up Lung Shorin, beating him to the point where he couldn't even retaliate. However, at this time, Lung Shorin's enlightened master power was finally unleashed. His speed was extraordinarily fast, and his power was ferocious. As time passed, it became more and more difficult for her. The fairy of the nine heavens in the void became blurry, as if she was about to disappear. Meng Xiaoqi's demonic blade technique was useless in front of Chu Li, but it was indeed powerful in front of others. This was the foundation of the demonic blade sect in ancient times. In addition to Meng Xiaoqi's status as a celestial being, it formed an absolute suppression of the realm. Ding! Lung Shorin suddenly punched Lu Yurong in the chest, making a clear ding sound. Lu Yurong was instantly energized. The jade pendant that had been hidden in front of her chest suddenly emitted a light stream, making her feel refreshed. The mysterious fairy of Jiutian suddenly became clear and immediately slapped the black knife with her palm. Bang! Lu Yurong was sent flying. Her mind went blank again in the air. The jade pendant once again sent a clear stream of energy to her, allowing her to stay awake. She faced Lung Shorin, who was chasing after her with a light palm strike. Bang! Lung Shorin was sent flying again. Chi! Meng Xiaoqi's body suddenly shone like a blazing sun, making people not dare to look at him directly. He then slashed with his knife. Lu Yurong waved both of her palms, trying to break the knife. When she saw Meng Xiaoqi like this, she knew that he had broken the celestial being's seal. Moreover, It was a full-force attack, which was also the strongest attack she had to face. If she could block this attack, she would be able to survive. She suddenly looked down at her chest. A thin knife mark appeared in the middle of her chest. There seemed to be a black line on her white clothes, from the middle of her chest to her dantillon. It was a straight black line. She felt that something was wrong, but she did not feel anything else. It was like a prank. Just as she was about to attack, she suddenly felt an extremely cold energy penetrating her chest. It was like a knife stabbing into her body, trying to split her body into two. The intense pain almost made her faint. She gritted her teeth and channeled the mysterious fairy of Jotian power to resist this strange energy, not letting her body be split into two. Bang! Longshoren finally found an opportunity and punched her in the back. Lu Yurong was only sent flying, but she was not hurt. The mysterious fairy of Jotian power at full force made her body extremely hard. An enlightened master's punch could not break through her defense. The mysterious fairy of Jotian suddenly made a hand seal, then bent her left finger and flicked it at Meng Xiaoqi. Meng Xiaoqi swung his knife. Bang! He was sent flying, desperately waving his knife in the air as if he was fighting against an invisible force. Lu Yurong felt a little better and lightly hit Longshoren with her palm. Longshoren was sent flying again, spitting out blood in the air. He gnashed his teeth in anger, feeling a deep sense of humiliation. The last time he was defeated by Chu Li in one move, he already had this kind of feeling, but when he thought about how Chu Li could kill enlightened deities, moreover Tang Hao Ian, defeating him wasn't all that strange, and it wasn't all that shameful either. At the very least, he managed to escape with his life from Chu Li's hands. But today, he could not defeat Lu Yurong. This was unacceptable. Was he really that weak as an enlightened master? The mysterious fairy of Jotian on top of Lu Yurong flicked her finger again. Meng Xiaoqi kept backing away, his face serious, as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Longshoren shouted, "Another one!" Bang! Lu Yurong was sent flying. A burly man appeared where she was just now, his body glowing so bright that no one dared to look at him directly. Lu Yurong gritted her teeth, blood dripping from the corner of her mouth. She said coldly, "His Majesty colluded with a celestial. How impressive!" The corner of her bloody mouth twitched slightly. Her sarcasm was irritating to Longshoren. Longshoren stood in the air, took a deep breath, and said, "Yurong, you will die today. What else do you have to say?" He knew that he could not defeat Lu Yurong, so he did not embarrass himself. He originally wanted to take her life himself, to fulfill the fate of the emperor and his subject. Moreover, he did not want to use others to kill her. He did not want her to die in the hands of others. He only wanted her to die in his own hands. Unfortunately, there were many things in the world that did not go as he wished. He could not fulfill his wish, so he could only ask for help. "I have nothing to say." Lu Yurong scoffed. Bang! Meng Xiaoqi suddenly appeared in front of her. His black blade was already close to her snow-white neck. The contrast of the black blade and her snow-white neck made her snow-white and delicate. It was unbearable to look at. Another burly man who was glowing moved like lightning, appearing behind Lu Yurong in an instant. The two of them attacked at the same time. Lu Yurong was about to dodge, but she suddenly felt a pain in her chest. She could not move. Her previous injury acted up again. She barely managed to avoid the attack on her neck, but she could not avoid the punch on her back. Bang! She was sent flying, spitting out a mouthful of blood in the air. Her face suddenly turned pale. The power of this punch was beyond imagination, stronger than Meng Xiaoqi's blade aura and 10 times stronger than Longshoren's. She secretly shook her head. Even when she was not injured, she was no match for this celestial. But this celestial still wanted to sneak up on her, and even join forces with Longshoren and Meng Xiaoqi. The black light flashed, and once again landed on her snow-white neck, silently slicing down. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.